All the action takes place many years ago, in the city of Linghai, the Kingdom of Dragons. A huge fireball hung over the city. Countless monsters have made their way into reality from the other world, forcing humanity to face the greatest disaster it has ever seen. Fortunately, heaven never abandons humanity. Opposite the terrified man was a monster. A mysterious sign suddenly appeared on the back of each person's hand, with which they discovered many unique paths. From that moment on, the era of changing occupations and becoming hunters began for humanity. Among the many awakened ones, there were only 3 people with mythical classes. The first is the United States of America, Ghostblade Alphard. The second is Russia, Horseman of the Infernal Dragon, Rastif. The third is the Magician King of the Frost Nation, Quan Xixian. Since the mythic ranked classes were significantly superior to the rest, this led to the Kingdom of the Lighthouse, Russia, and the Nation of Frost surpassing all other countries in terms of the pace of country conquest. 100 years ago, a prodigy like them appeared in the Dragon Kingdom. The best expert of the Dragon Kingdom is Asura. In just 10 years, he set the highest record ever set in China, and he became the first to pass through the 70th world. But something happened when the strongest 9th wave of monsters invaded the earth. Asura, who had switched classes 8 times, died defending himself from the rift. He sacrificed himself in order to protect the Dragon Kingdom. There were people standing next to his coffin. In our time, today marks the centenary of the death of hero Xiu Luka. The day before yesterday, a memorial ceremony was held in the capital, attended by all the best hunters of the Dragon Kingdom. At this time, statistics showed that there are 12,350,000 awakened this year, which is 11.3% more than that year, and has been the figure since another world descended to Earth 110 years ago. 10% of the awakened ones are core hunters, which is significantly more than the number of awakened ones in the year Asura was born. Maybe we can witness the next appearance. The next Asura! The TV presenter was speaking. At that moment, the guy was lying on the bed in a dark room. Someone said that the main gate to the other world is about to open. Let the hunters get ready. The young man looked exhausted, and next to him, on the pillow, there were pills and a bottle in which they lay. The guy said to himself that the gates to the other world were about to open, and let the hunters get ready. His eyes widened, and the young man was surprised. He sat down abruptly on the bed. Looking around, the young man asked if he wasn't dead. And where exactly is it located? Clutching his head, he said that he had a severe headache. A flashback flashed through his mind, where the guy says that he has been delaying payment to doctors for 2 months. He asked his brother for forgiveness, holding his head. The guy did not understand whose memories these were. Holding out his hand, he said that he never thought that after 100 years, he would be reincarnated into the body of a man with the same name as him. Swinging his legs off the bed, the guy continued to say that he was a monster tamer, which was not surprising, because a monster tamer mainly relied on his pets in battle. Someone once analyzed that in order to raise a powerful tamer, you need to be rich. For an ordinary person, waking up as a monster tamer is bad news. Getting out of bed, he said that the young man Zhang Yue, who could not cope with life, had ended his life. Going to the chest of drawers, the guy looked at the framed photo, which contained a photo of a young guy. Picking up the jacket, he continued to say that he used to be the strongest awakened in the entire Dragon Kingdom, Asura. Putting on a sweatshirt, the young man said that since he had already occupied the body of this guy and was reborn again, he would take on all his responsibilities and conquer this otherworldly world where the weak are at the mercy of the strong. I show my fist in the mirror, and he asks me to accept it as a way of thanking him, saying to himself again that the gates to the other world were about to open and he had to get ready. A glowing portal appeared in front of him. Clasping his hands together, he told the spatial gate to open. At that moment, the portal began to form. He opened up in front of the guy standing in front of him. The young man put his hand in there first. Following her, he stuck his foot in. A system window appeared that informed me that I was glad to see the respected hunter, Asura, and found that he had been missing for 36,552 days. He was standing. He was told that the power of abilities, 221,066,496,000 points. A cocoon hung in front of him. He was congratulated for being the first to defeat the rank 9 wave and achieve the mythical rank. Mythic rank treasure. Supreme Divine Decree. X1. This decree will be activated automatically. He was congratulated on receiving a permanent buff, an increase in strength in the other world by 10,000 times both online and offline. This effect is applied. He received an additional reward 999 times more than offline. 2 quadrillion, 210 trillion, 493 billion, 893 million, 503,000 ability power points. Surprised, the guy said that the quadrillions of ability power, this is the first pure reward for the highest rated wave of monsters in the world, is actually very generous. He has received a class reset, and you need to choose one of the 7 main classes of the mythical rank listed below. A list appeared. Knight, Warrior, Assassin, Priest, Mage, Archer, Monster Tamer. He said that 100 years ago he was an epic class warrior, but the strongest was a Monster Tamer. The only problem is the large number of abilities needed to boost yourself and your pets. Raising his hand, the guy said that since he had been reincarnated and even had a reserve of abilities for 1,000,000 years ahead, his main choice, of course, is the Necromancer. A system window appeared that informed him that congratulations on obtaining the 4th mythical rank in another world, the Core Hunter. The guy said that the initial growth is 100 stars. It's strong. There is information about him. The Necromancer is the main class of the mythical class based on magic. A messenger reborn from the underworld, he wields the power of the dead, and only death can arouse him. He said that the intelligence of an ordinary tamer's pet could be obtained as a reward for rare knowledge, but he did not expect that he could not only develop them, but also collect other monsters and make them his pets. In his previous life, relying on the epic rank class, he cleared 70 worlds in just 10 years, and became the best ranker in China. In this life, he will start with the mythical class. But the guy said that he had to perfectly purify every single world and become the strongest not only in China, but all over the world. The sun was rising over the village. The system informed him that welcome to the first world of the otherworld, the source of nightmares. The safe zone he was assigned to, according to his login, is Doomsday Village. It is worth noting that fighting is prohibited in the safe zone. And will he use the identifier, Asura? If not, you need to confirm the new ID. The guy said the new ID is 0. In this world, a guy is destined to surpass Asura's existence, and the only thing that surpasses everything else is 0. There were others with him, and the girl began to admire that the sensations in this world were the same as in the real one. The man asked where the monsters were, and his brother replied that it was a safe zone, and they were outside. The mission started. One of the guys asked if anyone wanted to team up. Another replied that maybe they should prepare something first. The source of nightmares. The first world. When darkness enveloped the earth, the monsters woke up, and disaster overtook the world. As the sole survivor, they must break the pattern of doomsday and crush the darkness. Task 1. Kill 1,000 monsters. Task 2. Collect 10 silver coins by killing monsters or completing quests. After completing everything, they will be able to get into the insane of the boss of the first world, win, and go to the second world. The guy thought that it looked like the usual layout of the other world hadn't changed much, but first he would buy equipment before completing the tasks. Approaching the counter, the seller said that, "Welcome, dear customer." It was the owner of the equipment store, Chile. He asked if he could find out what the customer needed. Standing at the counter, the guy said to himself that the store and the system remained the same, and he could buy basic items. Even for the best equipment, which is available here, it has only 1 star. Chile told the guy that if he was not satisfied with this, his small shop could provide more high-end equipment, but for a few more copper coins. He threw a bag of coins and said that there were 100 copper coins here, and he needed a magic staff with 1 star. The young man held a staff in his hands, and the others looked at him in surprise. The merchant told him to take care of him and come back again. One of the guys said they were given 100 coins for the return, and he spent them all? Another said they could have bought a full set of crude items, and the staff won't add much attack power. He turned away from them and went ahead, saying that thanks for the advice. The girl behind one of the guys asked that since only weapons with more stars could be improved, in that case, wouldn't the attack power increase? The guy replied that improving weapons requires the power of abilities, and it can only be obtained through monsters with a low drop rate. They must be completely brainwashed if they're doing this. Looking at him, someone said that he had spent all the money, and he had no defensive power. He would definitely suffer. Another replied that he had no experience, and that nothing would work here or outside without them. The hero said that for a beginner, spending all the money on 1-star equipment is really not worth it. But the power of abilities hunters gain when raising monsters is very limited. so they won't be able to afford to upgrade their equipment by 1 star. The guy smiled and said that the last thing he lacks right now is the strength of his abilities. The staff glowed and hung in the air. A system alert has appeared that says that when you spend 1 point of ability power to upgrade, you get a 10% chance of increasing your attribute. Does he want to improve the subject? The guy shouted that yes, and let him continue. The staff began to improve, and success points were added to it. The young man's eyes stared at him. Success! A system window appeared that announced that the staff had been upgraded to a better level. After 132 upgrades and spending 985 ability power points, he received a golden attribute. Raising his hand to the staff, the guy said that 132 upgrades show the true power of quadrillion points of ability power. Information about the staff appeared. Picking it up, he said that the preparations were complete, and the next thing was time to put on a good show. The first world. The Source of Nightmares. The Source of Nightmares is a starting point for beginners in this field. There was an explosion at the back of the park. A monster in the form of a giant wolf was fighting with a guy who had a sword in his hands. The wolf had red eyes and hair-like front teeth. The guy looked at him in horror and said that it was a low-level monster, and he has so much HP that he can't damage it with his sword. He jumped because the monster punched the spot where the guy was standing. He continued to say that if he attacked them, the newcomer, they would die. A huge burning ball appeared. He got right into the body of this monster. The guy and the girl looked at it all with animal horror. A system window appeared, which informed that the flame was activated. Pioneer Headquarters burning effect. The wolf fell to the ground, and not far from him stood Zhang Yue with a staff. The system window reported that he had killed a mutated level 1 giant rat. The guy said that mythical class hunters have the highest level of basic attributes and the best equipment. The team turned to the guy with incomprehension. The young man asked, "What is this huge amount of damage?" The girl next to him said that maybe he was one of the veteran hunters. The guy replied to her that it couldn't be. It required a lot of power points. The three of them looked at him and said that whatever it was, he was clearly some kind of big shot. At this time, the guy kept thinking that he was given too little experience for killing a level 1 monster. In order to increase his experience gain, he needed to kill high-level monsters. There are level 3 to 4 venomous spiders, scorpions in iron armor of the 5th, 7th level. The wild boars are level 8 to 9 berserkers, and the boss of the first world is the level 10 berserker boar king. After listing them, Zhang Yu continued to think that right now, the best choice for him is monsters above level 3 in an abandoned factory. A group abruptly ran up to him. The guy asked him to join a team. After all, they have a healer, a tank, and a primary attacker. One of the girls asked if he would help, and the other one said that she was a healer and could treat him. Looking down on them, he said he didn't need them. The guy apologized to him. He left, and the team watched him go. When the young man left, the guy told the girls that, did they feel his presence? He scares more than monsters? They agreed with him. The young man told them to look that he was going to an abandoned factory. Did he continue to tell him that there were dangerous high-level monsters there and that he was going to fight them alone? He's definitely a big shot, because they're all not following the traditional path. A mutated giant rat appeared with its mouth open. System windows appeared that reported that he had killed a mutated giant rat of level 1, a poisonous spider of level 3, a poisonous spider of level 3, a poisonous spider of level 3. He was congratulated for raising his level. Current level 2. You need 250 experience points for the next level. Zhang Yue pointed the glowing magic staff at the huge spider. There was an explosion, and the monster was killed. A system window appeared that congratulated him on his level up. You need 100 experience points for the next level. He was walking away from a pile of dead mutated monsters. The guy got a reward, a fireball. He started to say that he didn't think that the bonuses for leveling up would be 6 times higher than for ordinary hunters. When upgraded to level 3, the attributes reached 18 points. Looking at the screen, he said that the Beastmaster class follows the path of growth in the same way as the Magician in the early stages. The young man continued to say that in this way, it is extremely important to ensure a faster attack speed, stable power, and then increase agility. As for the initial skill, it's pretty weak. For ordinary professionals with limited ability points, it is not worth using. Smiling, he said that unfortunately, or fortunately, he had too many ability points in this life. He decided to improve it to the maximum. He has spent a lot of ability points, and the upgraded skill damage is 140%. He was congratulated on his new skill, Super Ball. To continue, He needs to move on to the second-class shift. The young man stood and looked at the screen, saying that at this rate of completing tasks in the first 2 worlds, he should be transferred to at least the 8th level. Looking at the information about the source of the nightmares, the guy continued to say that then it would be enough to challenge the final boss and complete the passage of the first world. He turned at a sound next to him. The guy saw a massive gate. Zhang Yue opened them. There was a guy with no legs sitting on the floor in front of him. His name was Kayil. As he got closer, he said that apart from the fact that the players were dying, this world was almost no different from a normal game. Quests, dungeons, and this NPS in front of him. Kyle screamed that his wife and children were killed by monsters. Can he help him kill these hateful scorpions? The system window informed him that the course of the story had been changed. Did he accept the task? He muttered to himself that the equipment he would receive as a result of the quest was better than what was dropped from the monsters. It's a good thing he only has one weapon. This quest is worth accepting. The guy was scared. Did he whisper that someone had moved? He looked in front of him into a dark alley. The young man said that there are more than just monsters here. However, his main priority right now is completing the quest. 3 pairs of red eyes appeared out of the darkness. After looking at them, the guy said that the intermediate monster of the first world, a scorpion in iron armor. It's been a long time since they've seen each other. The system window reported information about them, and scorpions appeared in front of the guy. One of them jumped on him, but the young man quickly got down to business. Zhang Yu braced himself and swung his staff at the scorpion flying at him. The fireball hit his tail. The iron-armored scorpion activated the collision skill. He was thrown up by the ball. The monster crawled away, and the fireball hit the ground. There was an explosion. A system window appeared that informed him that he had killed a scorpion in iron armor and gained experience and ability points. The guy said to himself that the super fireball could be extremely powerful, but it consumed too much mana. There was a mark of impact on the ground. He was killing scorpions, and remembered that when the number of ordinary monsters decreased to a certain number, the Scorpion Emperor appeared in armor. Then he appeared. The Scorpion Emperor. It was bigger and looked at him with ferocious eyes. The monster stood up on its hind legs, and the guy saw it and said that it was there. The staff glowed and tongues of fire were coming from it. The young man said that he had to kill this giant before he used up all the mana. He pointed it at him and released a fireball. The scorpion was able to dodge the blow, but his body is impenetrable. The guy ducked, dodging the blow with his tail. He moved abruptly. The young man immediately appeared at the monster and released another ball, saying, "What about this?" Another explosion occurred in front of him. It exploded near the monster, which opened its mouth and fell. Jumping away from him, Zhang Yu said that he was lucky to knock him down just when his mana was running out. Standing next to him, he said that now he needed to deliver the last blow to the Emperor of Scorpions in iron armor, and the mission would be completed. Suddenly, there was another young man behind the guy, who was jumping at him with a sword in his hands. In front of him, on the monster's claw, there was another guy who put a sword to him and said they were done with this mission, and the Scorpion Emperor will be killed by him. Zhang Yue abruptly turned around and stepped aside. The guy flying at him with a sword missed and looked at him in surprise. After looking at him in response, he said that they had finally shown up. The young man looked at him and asked what was going on. How did he know they were here? He replied to him that some players level up honestly, while others specialize in things like killing other people's prey. The guy continued to look at him and said that it was a pity that they had chosen the wrong target, and the enemies he had once faced were 1,000,000 times stronger than them. He pointed his staff at one of them, who was about to unleash a fireball. The young man looked at him with frightened eyes. Screaming, he was caught in that fireball and flew away. The other looked at his friend in fright. Turning to Zhang Yu, the guy asked him if he hadn't run out of mana. How did he activate the skills without her? He replied that if he hadn't said that phrase, would they have shown up or not? A purple light is floating above the fire left by the ball. A system window appeared that congratulated the activation of the Necromancer class skill. Stretching out his hand to him, the guy said that luck was on his side, since he managed to get the Necromancer's skill so quickly. Taking the ball in his hand, he told me to activate it. A purple glow appeared around his leg. Black and purple flames began to form. The guy looked up at Zhang Yu with frightened eyes. Flames surrounded his body, and his eyes turned red. A system window appeared that informed him that he had received a pet, the Scorpion Emperor in iron armor. Information about the animal appeared next to it. The guy was thinking that the reason why pets are difficult to develop is because you need the experience of a tamer. In the early stages, a double is required, and in the later stages, it is unrealistic for an ordinary player. Looking at the pet, he said that unfortunately, he absolutely does not need any experience. He asked for a complete upgrade, and the Scorpion Emperor's skill in iron armor increased. The other guy jerked and stuttered and asked him who he was anyway? After all, an ordinary player can't have such power. Holding the pet by the muzzle, he said that from the moment he received the assignment, he felt that he was being spied on. And they must be assassins who prey on lone players. The guy was crying, and he said that he had received the same task, and they planned to ambush him at the last moment and destroy the emperor. The young man said to himself that he had screwed up badly. Zhang Yu said he would see what his friend was capable of. He jerked violently from his seat. The guy started running away quickly. Falling to his knees, he begged not to be killed. He begged him. The young man, looking at him, said that in this world where the strong prey on the weak, they wanted to do the opposite. They should be ready to be hunted by now. The guy's pupil shrank. Sitting on the ground, Kafil thanked him for avenging him, and from that day on, he would be his good brother. The system window congratulated him on completing the Scorpion extermination quest, and he was rewarded with new equipment and a magic necklace. The guy decided to see what kind of equipment. He said that he just lacked mana, and then equipment appeared that adds it. He has completely improved everything. Holding the equipment in his hands, he said that now he and the Scorpion Emperor in iron armor would be able to level up even faster. He looked at the notification system in front of him. It said that everyone in the city should pay attention to the fact that a kingdom had appeared nearby, and it would last for 1 hour, and whoever passed first would receive generous rewards. Someone in the crowd shouted in surprise, "Is this a 5th-level secret realm?" The guy, looking at the sky, said that it wasn't that far away, and with his abilities, there was also a generous reward. He said it would be his. One young man from the crowd offered to join him. After all, according to rumors, for completing the secret realm, they will receive a high reward, and this is a chance to earn a fortune. Another guy turned to Zhang Yu, saying that the kingdom is a 5th-level mission, and for them, acceptance will be the end of life. Because their lives will be at stake, he replied that therefore it is necessary to unite. Walking behind the men, he muttered to himself that several people wanted to pass through the secret realm. A hand pushed him away and told him to get out of the way. The man told the president to come here, and a guy in golden armor and a girl came out of the crowd. He was very handsome. Did someone say that? Who does he think he is? And he's acting so arrogantly. He was told that this was Liu Yao, the son of the richest man in Linghai. His fortune is estimated at billions. He continued to tell the crowd that it was their Mr. Liu who had always been very popular. A full set of 1-star equipment of any of his subordinates is worth tens of thousands. The girl who came with him said the guy's name in surprise and asked what he was doing here. The young man remembered that this was the ex-girlfriend of the previous owner of the body. Wasn't her name Lin Yurei? She told him that an ordinary beast tamer like him wasn't even able to pay the rent, but was going to go to a 5th-level secret realm. Glaring at her, he replied, that was not a problem. The girl wondered what was wrong with him, and shouldn't he beg her to give him another chance, like last time? Hugging Liu Yao, she said that only a strong man like their brother Yao would be able to pass through the secret realm, and he probably shouldn't indulge in empty dreams. He took her by the head and told him that it was hard to be stupid, and in his humble opinion, people should be able to calculate their own strength and not build castles in the air. The guy replied that he wasn't interested in her. If anything, let her use it if she wanted to. As for the secret kingdom, only someone else is building castles in the air. She shouted at him that what nonsense was he talking about. And turning to Yao, she said that just look at his arrogance. We need to teach him a lesson for this. Looking at her with a smile, he replied that it would be better to take care of their lives. The girl kept shouting that he was bluffing. She knows exactly how weak he is, because he's just trash. The president said to himself that he couldn't see his class and rank, as if his stats were deliberately hidden. He held up his hand, and he told the kid to forget, because he was in a hurry to enter the secret realm, and he couldn't afford to waste time, and this time he would spare him. Standing in front of the portal, he asked, "Where are the resurrection scrolls?" And he invited the others to enter the secret realm with him. And for this, they would receive initial admission. Most of the people shouted that they agreed and followed him. The guy standing next to Zhang Yu told him that he should just give up, because they are just pathetic losers who are no better than these rich people in the 2nd generation. He replied that if he feels pathetic, inferior to others, then let him find ways to become stronger. He also said to himself that the owner of this body was pathetic, but that didn't apply to Asura. The young man turned around and told Zhang Yu that he was still pretending. Everyone from this realm has a resurrection whistle worth 3,000 yuan each. Someone started saying that this is expected of 2nd generation rich people, but you can only use 2 whistles per week. And another said that the Supreme Guild would get initial access. The guy said to himself that he would have to go through a lot of monsters in the secret kingdom, but given his current strength, he could handle small mobs easily, but he wasn't sure about the boss. But if he and the Scorpion Emperor reached the 5th level, and he did not have time to improve his equipment and skills, he would have no chance of winning. The young man went forward. The people following Liu Yao entered the portal with him and his guards. The girl walking next to him asked him that Zhang Yu had offended her, but he didn't take revenge on him for her. He replied that there were too many people here, and if someone had the intention to blacken the family's reputation, if they had said that Liu Yao had deliberately killed a man, then they would have a lot of problems. Yao told her to relax, because sooner or later he would make this animal tamer bow down to her and apologize. She thanked him and said that he treats her the best. There was a fiery explosion. The guy and the animal were walking forward. He said that the pets of an ordinary tamer need the same amount of experience as their master. But fortunately, only half of the honeydew is needed to improve the necromancer's pet. At the initial stage, he only needs to kill a few small mobs to quickly upgrade the armored scorpion. A fiery cloud hung in the sky. One of the guys peeking out from behind the wall asked, "Isn't that the loser who had a fight with Liu Yao recently?" The other one said that it turns out he's that strong. He instantly killed a 5th level scorpion. He kept walking forward. A group of girls stood in front of him. One of them asked him if she could join him in battle, and another asked if she could become his girlfriend. She will do everything. As he passed by, he said he wasn't interested. The girls fell into a stupor from his words. A system window appeared that informed him that he was in Doomsday City, and this was the 5th level of the secret realm. The city would close in 10 minutes. Looking at the pet, the guy said that he had upgraded his scorpion's defense, and it would serve him as a human shield while he focused on dealing damage. There was information about the Scorpion Emperor in iron armor, which showed all his data. Looking at his necklace, the guy said that in combination with equipment that quickly restores mana, you can use the skill Fireball, a continuous stream of fire. He entered the portal saying that 10 minutes was more than enough for him. A huge fiery explosion occurred near the forest. Standing on a hillock by a waterfall, someone told the guy that he overestimated himself, and it would be better if he died in a secret kingdom and saved the speaker from having to finish with him with his own hands. After passing through, he said that they were finally gone, and he wouldn't have to put up with those annoying people. Cracks appeared abruptly on the ground, from which fire was emerging. The guy stood and waited. A huge scorpion came out of the ground. The young man said that he was here. The armored scorpion overlords appeared. He was much stronger than the Scorpion Emperor. The young man said that this was expected of the Scorpio Lord. He is different from his minions, and his health score is several times higher than theirs. Well, let's get started. The two scorpions pounced on each other. The overlord was much bigger than the emperor. Liu Yao said that it wasn't enough for him to defeat the boss. The man replied that the monster lord was level 7, and they were just a group of level 2 hunters, and they were only here to increase their numbers. The girl told Yao that the monsters in the secret realm were too strong, and their lives should be a priority. The guy standing next to her said that she was right. They should quickly use the scrolls and leave this place. The president tensed sharply, listening. He shouted that someone was here. Zhang Yue was standing on a mountain not far from them, looking at them. Watching them, Yao shouted at him that it was him again. Liu Yao viciously told him that, wasn't he afraid of ending his life? After all, he only has the 5th level. The guy was looking at him with a satisfied smile. He shouted at him that why was he smiling? He would teach him a lesson, and he would remember it for the rest of his life. The girl asked him to calm down, because such a poor man has no money for a resurrection scroll, and he came to die. Turning around, the guy saw the monster and readied his staff. It caught fire. The young man said to himself that with the Scorpion Emperor's equipment and skills, this insect would not be able to defeat them. Fireballs flew at the monster, which dealt damage to it. The Scorpion Lord stood in front of the boy. The guy abruptly found himself on top of his pet, who in turn grabbed his paw with his claws. A large number of fireballs rained down on the overlord again. They hit the monster exactly. He was bleeding from his mouth and wheezing. The monster screamed sharply and began to spin. He croaked once more. The armored Scorpion Lord is dead. And Zhang Yue was standing on it. Standing on it, he said it was easy. The system window congratulated the hunter. 0. He received the initial admission of the secret realm. There was information near the gate that congratulations were given to 0, and he received initial admission. Everyone started wondering who it was. A man from the crowd said that he was strong because he had cleared a level 5 realm. The girl looked at Liu Yao and said that everyone is currently level 1 to 3, but the keeper of the 5th level secret realm should be at least level 6 to 7. How could he defeat him? The guy was terrified. The man said that the ad appeared a couple of minutes after her ex entered the secret realm. She started saying it couldn't be. After all, he saw for himself that he had hidden the stats and didn't even have a pet. How could he single-handedly kill a level 7 monster? He replied that there was no way, because there must be other people involved. There was water coming out of the wall. After all, it's obviously not an easy person to kill a scorpion lord. Liu Yao ordered that we need to find this man Zero immediately. No matter what the cost, he had to force him to join the Supreme Guild and work for him. The soldiers replied that they would do everything. Zhang Yu passed by a monster and said that loot falling from bosses is always higher than that falling from ordinary monsters. Copper coins, equipment, but the most important of these is the scroll. He kept talking while looking at the system windows about how the secret scroll could be improved with just a few $1,000s. The guy improved it. In one click, the scroll started spinning. The improved scroll levitated near the young man. He said that in the first world, there had never been a secret scroll of the royal level. It would cost hundreds of thousands on the market. It's expensive for ordinary hunters. Clenching his fist, he said that his goal was to traverse these alternate worlds. Jung said that the difficulty was 100. But the rewards were unknown, and the bounty mission was royal. Would you just need to escort a non-player character? The guy looked at the map and realized that it was level 10, and he was only on the 5th. But besides, wild boars usually appear in herds. They will be difficult to deal with. The young man said he had to find Eileen first. The girl was running and crying, at the same time screaming not to be touched. A wild boar was running after her. A fireball flew into him and exploded. There was steam in the sky from the explosion. She ran up to the guy and asked him what would save her. Yu replied that he did. Opposite them lay the dead carcass of a wild boar. A system window appeared that informed them that Eileen, who had been squeezed out, had been found. The remaining time is 10 hours. The other wild boar roared. The guy asked, "What does this have to do with the mission?" After all, as soon as he found the girl, wild boars began to appear in the forest. The animal ran towards them and growled. The young man covered Eileen with himself and fired a fireball at him. It hit him exactly, and he fell to the ground. They were sitting on the ground, and the roaring wild boars started running towards them. The guy said they were strong. Both his equipment and the A-rank fireball didn't stop them for a second. If the girl died here, he would fail the mission. She stood behind him and cried. The young man asked his pet to protect him, and then a scorpion appeared out of nowhere. The animal stood up as a shield, and Yue began to release fireballs at the boars. He released them one by one. The guy killed one level 10 wild boar. A system window appeared that informed him that he had killed one boar. He shouted that it had worked and asked the armored scorpion to impale a few more, and then they could level up. They killed them quickly. The young man sat down next to the frightened girl and said that these boars were not getting smaller, and his mana was already running out. Eileen asked him if he was okay. He looked at her kindly and told her not to worry, because he would definitely bring her back. A wild boar flying at him blew him away. The guy fired a super fireball at him. The animal suddenly appeared in it. It was lying on the ground and wheezing. The young man said that fortunately he was in excellent health. Otherwise, if he had been knocked down by a wild boar, he would have finished. But the armored scorpion wouldn't last long either. He didn't think the rescue mission would be so difficult. An exhausted wild boar was lying on the ground. Yum was happy that he was finally able to level up twice in a row, and made an emergency improvement. As he put the gold ring on his finger, he said that on top of everything else, he had the equipment he got after defeating the Scorpion King. The guy raised one hand up, and a huge glowing fireball appeared above him. He screamed, and this balloon burst. The young man killed another wild boar. Yu was glad that before he only dealt damage on the 7th or 8th strike, but now he is able to kill wild boars with 2 fireballs. The young man killed the animals one by one. He walked up to the girl and said to himself that he had finally gotten rid of this herd of creatures. All that remained was to return Eileen to Doomsday City, and then the task would be counted. Liu Yao appeared in front of him and was surprised that he hadn't died in the secret realm yet. Opposite them stood the president and Lin Yurei. He was the supreme sun, and she was the moon. Zhang Yu, looking at them, said that he did not want to waste his time on stupid arguments with them, and asked them to get out of his sight. The girl shouted at Yao that he had an elite 5th level, and even equipment. Let him teach him a lesson for her. He said he was lucky last time, but now it's time to pay the bills. The guy said that if he wanted to kill him, then let him start. He stood motionless, and Liu Yao ran at him with a sword, shouting that he would see which would hurt him more, his sword or the young man's words. The blade of the sword landed on his shoulder, but it did nothing else. Yao shouted that how is this even possible? The girl looked at them with surprised eyes and said to herself that this guy was just a tamer. Besides, he wasn't wearing armor. How could brother Yao not hit him? The guy removing the blade of the sword from his shoulder, asked if he was done, and now it's his turn. A system window appeared that informed me that a violent raid reduces protection by 10%, increases attack by 20%. Both skills last for 10 seconds. Zhang Yue raised his staff up, and a huge fireball appeared. Liu Yao shouted at him that he was the president of the Supreme Guild, Liu's eldest son, the richest man in Linghai, and if he was going to attack him, the guy's eyes turned red, and a tongue of flame flew near his face. Yao was suspended in the air, in a ball of fire. Falling to the ground, he said it was a one-punch. The president's armor was falling to the ground. Yu looked at the information that appeared, in which it was written that the hunter of the Supreme Sun who launched an attack on him put a gray color on the enemy. If he kills him in 10 minutes, he will not receive a reward of points. In another world, the names of hunters are usually white. If a hunter decides to harm another, the name of the aggressor of the conflict will turn gray for a while. At this time, the victim's resistance is considered a justified defense, so he is not awarded sin points. If the victim is killed, the attacker's name will turn red, and later he will receive 100 sin points. In this case, the rules of the otherworld forbid moving into the protective zone, and he will not be able to leave the world until he redeems all his sin points by killing monsters. Otherwise, he will have to wait for his own demise. The guy said to himself that after his death, the hunter loses not only experience and level, but also a significant part of his equipment and inventory. Lin Yurei looked at him in surprise and said to herself that he killed Liu Yao with one blow. And when did he become so strong? Walking towards her, she shouted that, what did he want? The young man said to himself that he could only use 2 resurrection scrolls in 7 days. As he passed by her, he continued to say that he had already used one in the secret realm, so if he used it now, he would not have the opportunity later. The girl said that despite the fact that they had separated, she had never forgotten about him. The guy and the girl walked past her, ignoring her. Yunny turned around and said to himself that she was sitting motionless. If she had intervened and taken a step towards Eileen, he would have failed the mission, but he can't waste his time on her. Standing up, she said that how dare he ignore her. They came to the village. The girl bowed to him and told him that she had come home. A system window appeared that congratulated him on completing the royal-level generosity mission of rescuing survivors. He got a pet egg. Something began to glow and form in his hand. He was holding a 2-star ice staff. Clicking on the button started processing. There were 144 clicks, and 22,356 ability points were used. He was congratulated on receiving a golden item. The destroyer was a golden scepter. The guy said that the higher the quality of the item, the more points are consumed. Fortunately, this is not a problem for him. Holding a green egg in his hand, he continued to say that there was a pet egg among the rewards. Looking at it, the young man said that it was of a normal level. Opening the system panel, there were many such eggs. He said he got them wrong when he was fighting monsters. Jung said he would feed them to the scorpion. Many system windows appeared that informed him that his pet, the Scorpion Emperor in iron armor, had devoured another pet, an enraged boar. Information about the Silver Scorpion Emperor came out. The guy stretched out his hand to the pet and said that the 2-star staff and the Silver Scorpion Emperor were not bad, and together with Liu Yao's golden armor, he would be able to defeat the first boss. But before that, he must replenish his supplies. He created a portal and went into it, Night City. The guy came out of this portal. The phone on the table rang. Holding it to his ear, they began to say that if he did not pay 390,000 for medical care for his brother Zhang Zhao, they would be forced to stop his treatment. He asked for the card number and said he would call back in 10 minutes. Putting down the phone, Yoon said that he would sell some of the equipment and receive millions. And helping the brother of this body is a kind of compensation. A system window appeared that informed them that this equipment could not be sold or discarded as it was tied to the player. The young man nervously said that this was the minus of a 10,000-fold increase in stats. In other words, setting up is not such a bad idea. But nothing can be done with this equipment. Even if he sells all the silver coins, he can only scrape together about 10,000. We need to find a way to earn more money. He picked up the phone and looked at the screen where the chat was open. There were reports that someone was selling something, and someone was ready to buy something. The guy said that the coaches have an hourly rate, but then you will have to save up for a very long time. Opening his eyes wide, he was surprised by one message. It said that Ramiro was paying 3,000 yuan for a first-world professional coach from Linghai City. The guy picked up the phone and held it to his ear. After removing the device, he said that this was a life-threatening post. Very interesting. Information about the ice staff has appeared. The girl was sitting on a chair at the computer. Zhang Yu held the phone to his ear and said he was calling to inquire about a 3,000 yuan job offer. What were their terms? The girl answered the phone and said that, firstly, this was only relevant for those who had recently received their rank, and secondly, they would have to send a certain person to complete the first world. The guy replied that he understood, and honestly, it doesn't matter to him. The first world, the second, but he will have to ask for 390,000 yuan for it. She replied to him that after they were done, he would receive 400,000. The young man asked when they could start, and the girl replied that in 10 minutes. And she would be waiting for him at the rebirth point in Doomsday City. He came to the city and said to himself that going through the first world was one thing, but taking someone through it was quite another, and he would be paid 400,000 for it. Walking down the street, the guy said that as long as people are willing to pay money for such things, such deals even sound nice. The young man stopped and looked in front of him in surprise. There was a girl standing in front of him, all in black and with a hood, and he asked who she was. The guy came up and stood next to her. Behind them, the men were talking to each other, and one of them asked, "Isn't this a spellcaster of destruction?" And another replied that it looked like it, and if she had pulled at least 100 hoods on herself, everyone would have recognized her. The girl adjusted her hood, and the men continued to say that, judging by the fact that this weakling tamer had come to her. But they wouldn't dare to complete that mission, would they? The guy looked at her in silence. The other man replied that gold seemed to be more precious to him than his life. The young man told her that they would form a team first, and first they had to complete a world quest. She joined his team. Going forward, Yui said that in order to pass through the first world, they must first complete 2 quests, in which thousands of monsters will be waiting for them, and the reward will be 10 coins. When creating the portal, he continued to say that this was the settings of the otherworld, and she would not be able to hurt monsters who were 5 levels higher than her, and even if he helped, he still would not be able to. Entering it, the guy said that first they would go through a few preliminary ones and raise her level. She followed him with her head down. A huge frozen scorpion appeared in front of them. The guy, looking at him, said to himself that the new ability is not as effective as a fireball, however, it can be used as an auxiliary. Turning to her, he asked what she was doing. After all, she needed to hurry up and finish him off. The girl looked at him in surprise, with his hands outstretched. Purple flames poured out of them. They were moving towards the frozen monster. She killed that scorpion with her magic. She was congratulated on leveling up, and the girl, in turn, thought that how did she get up 3 levels at once? The girl was walking along the road, and at that moment a huge scorpion was flying at her. The guy shouted at her to be careful. Running forward, he knocked her to the ground, shielding himself from the monster. Raising the staff up, a huge fireball formed. There was a big explosion in front of them. The girl, who did not understand anything, clung to the guy. Her violet eyes reflected the silhouette of a guy. Turning to her, the guy told her to get up. They needed to go to the next level. Walking through the forest, the young man talked about the amount he would be paid, and asked the girl how old she was. Turning to her, she pointed. There were 2 on one hand and 1 on the other. He said that everyone awakens their level by the age of 18. She should have started 3 years ago. And why is her level so low? She stopped behind him, and noticing this, the guy stopped too, asking if something was wrong. The girl began to take off her hood. After taking it off, she thanked the guy for his help and said he could be free. She would send him a partial refund later, but asked him not to tell her sister about it. The guy turned around and said he thought she couldn't talk. He told her that he had already promised her sister, so he would take her through the first world, and it would not be a problem. She replied excitedly that hadn't he heard about what people were saying? If he takes her, he'll get into trouble. The young man said that he was wondering what a disaster vessel was anyway. The girl screamed that it looked like the destruction caster was going to ruin someone's life again. There were men standing not far from the couple. One of them said that this was what was said on the forum, and if he took an assignment for her, he would die a terrible death, but whoever took her life would receive a reward. Another shouted that they were doing this in the name of justice, and let them take it. The guy was shouting at her that these people were 5-6 levels above them, and they couldn't handle them alone, but he would take them on himself, and she needed to run away as soon as possible. The young man used a staff from which blue flames began to emanate. He asked, what didn't he say about it? What about his 400,000? On the other hand, some guy said it looked like a fight was about to unfold. This guy turned out to be President Liu Yao and his army. The men stood and looked at it. One of them started asking, what is that rich guy from Linghai? If he joins, they definitely won't win. The other one told him to shut up. A guy started running to the president, saying that they had come here to help the people. They didn't want to get in his way. He asked for silence. Liu Yao approached Zhang Yu and said that life was constantly pushing them against each other. Did he tell him that he came here to give him gifts? And if he remembers correctly, then he can't use this revitalizing scroll. The president pointed at the couple. He asked me to take them. And the soldiers began to draw their swords. Zhang Yue and the girl stood and looked at them with a malicious look. The president looked at them in surprise and said, "Isn't that a reaction?" Turning to the army, he shouted the name of one of them, Hua Jiu. Approaching him, Yao hit him on the head and shouted that he seemed to have misunderstood him. After all, he told him to steal someone's skin, but did he even say a word about it? Standing in the woods, the guy replied that he did it out of habit. The army surrounded the couple from all sides. Uni looked together with the girl in the same direction. The young man turned to the other side. The girl looked in front of her. The men bent down and there were gift presents in their hands. Someone shouted for them to accept them. Virgo looked at it in fright, hiding behind the guy's back, and stammered, "What does that mean?" Lin Yurei stood behind Liu Yao and shouted at him, "What is the meaning of all this?" He asked her to shut up. The president looked out from behind one of the soldiers and said that he knows that he is not afraid to use force, unlike him, so he would like them to accept these gifts to prove his sincerity. Showing the class, he continued to say that he had specially chosen these gifts, which he had previously asked to prepare, because it was something irreplaceable if he joined his guild and agreed to serve him. The guy looked at him with an unflappable look, and he continued to say that they could even discuss his salary. The president held out his hand, showing 5 fingers, and said, "What about 500,000 a month?" Someone from the army said that he would like to be in his place, and the girl who came with Yui said that it was so much. Yurei said that no poor man could get such an offer, surviving only by eating dirt, and just let him join the winning side and join their guild. She said to herself that if she could recruit him, she was sure Liu Yi would be pleased with her, and she would even have a chance to dominate Zhang Yu, and he'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The young man replied that he was a man who recognized the value of those who were stronger than him. And maybe it's worth checking its significance in his eyes. If he turns out to be stronger, maybe he'll accept his offer. Did the girl say he was crazy? 5,000 a month. She's sure he wouldn't have earned it in a year. What right does a broken man like him have to refuse such an offer? You replied that if you mess with someone, you'll get it from them. If everyone in the guild is like her, what is the chance that he will lose his pride and serve someone like a devoted dog? She was angry. The guy asked that they weren't going to fight? Then get out of the way. He's busy. The girl indignantly said that they would just let him go. The president said to let him go. Was Yurei shouting indignantly that he would just let him go? He didn't even pay attention to him. Did Yao tell her that she heard him well? He said to let him go. The girl stammered back that it was fine. The army and Liu Yao watched them leave. One of the soldiers said that this kid had already killed him once, but your generosity allows him to turn a blind eye to it. The young man kept saying that if he continued like this, he would be able to come and kill them. The president punched him in the face and said he didn't know anything. He happily began to say that the value of some things only becomes greater if you spend more of your own efforts on it. If everything comes too easily, it doesn't make any sense. Lin Yurei hugged his hand and asked with a smile that, "Didn't he crave his blood? Didn't you do everything possible to kill him as soon as possible? Why did he suddenly change his mind?" He replied to her that it was probably after he killed him. Taking her chin in his hand, he continued to say that he was an ordinary poor man who couldn't even afford to buy equipment. How did some tamers manage to achieve such high damage? He went on to say that this guy is more difficult than they thought. He must win over to his side by all means, no matter what it costs him. Lin Yurei clenched her teeth and said to herself, "What does it mean that it's harder than they thought?" She knows him better than anyone. This guy is just a penniless fool. She continued to say that she should just let Zhang Yu wait. The next time they met, he would crawl on his knees in front of her. The moon rose over the forest where the couple was walking. The girl thanked him for covering for her, and he replied that if she had died, he would not have been paid. She stopped, looking away and holding her face. She said that it was okay, let her forget. She doesn't think they can finish this mission. The guy stopped and told her that why post on the forums with such confidence? She could just not show up here. Why would there be such a need to pass through the other world? The girl replied to him that he would not understand her. She had given up long ago, but her sister pressed the system button. As she said before, this vessel of disaster is here. Let him take a look. Looking into those eyes, he was surprised and said to himself that this was a special class? Whew. This means that, in addition to the main classes, there are also special ones. At that moment, he imagined that the girl was in an egg sealed with vessels. But if they managed to overcome their limits, in the performance, the egg began to crack, and light began to break out of it. Then they will have the opportunity to achieve not only a high class, but also a mythical one. Unfortunately, an ordinary person will not be able to achieve this. Those who fail the mission will be doomed to endless suffering. The girl sat on the ground and said that since she had awakened to this level 3 years ago, more than 100 attempts had been made, not to mention that it is impossible to form a team due to the settings. The guy looked at her, and she continued to say that how could they possibly defeat the boss of the first world if they were level 10? She shed one tear, which fell to the ground. The girl said it was better for him to leave. He told her, what if he told her it was possible? There were tears in her eyes. The young man continued to say that he could guide her through the first world. She quickly stood up and shouted in surprise. Grabbing his clothes, she stammered, "What's the truth?" The girl squeezed his sleeve and said to herself that for 3 years she had only dreamed of removing this curse of restriction, about how they will take an example from her, about how she will get a name. He reached for her hand, and she thought that she really had a chance. The guy told her that enough talking, they still have a whole world to overcome. For the first world, the class owner must complete the preliminary tasks before earning the right to fight the world boss. The first thing to do is kill 1,000 monsters. Coins of various colors, materials, and values rained down. The guy was standing behind the boars, and they had coins on them. The second thing to do is collect 10 silver coins. The girl standing behind him thought, is he really capable of such a thing? He had dealt with 1,000 monsters so quickly and led her through the rest of the world's quests. That was enough. Turning around, the young man said that since they were done with the preliminary quests, they might run into the boss. She replied that she was fine, she was ready. The young man asked her if something was wrong. The girl replied that it was nothing. She just realized that the strength of ordinary people could not compare with his. Someone like him would not even think about accepting her request. The young man smiled and said that he was not from ordinary people, but from the middle class. Virgo just stared at him. Turning away, the guy said to himself that it sounded cooler in his head, and he should avoid mentioning his income in the real world. The girl lit up and clapped her hands and said it was cool. A system window appeared, which informed that the preliminary tasks were completed. You need to click to fight the boss. The young man pressed the yes button. The system alert started loading the first world. A portal began to form. The demonic abyss. A fiery portal appeared in front of the couple. Turning to her, he asked if she was ready. The girl waved her head, indicating that yes. They entered the portal. A system notification appeared that informed them that they had entered the first world, the source of the nightmare. Boss sector, demonic abyss. They ended up somewhere unknown. The countdown has started. If they can't kill the boss in that time, then they'll have to start the world quest from the beginning. Youngie threw the test tubes and bottles with liquids inside to the girl. After catching it all, she said that the rebirth whistle, the instant recovery potion, were very expensive items. The guy replied that although he was confident that he could defeat this comrade alone, but it was impossible to deny the presence of unexpected factors, it was better to be prepared for anything. He continued to say that he would just put Liu Yao's fallen armor on his scorpion, and in that case, the boss's attacks would not be a problem for them. The pet growled. There is information about the silver-armored scorpion. The girl jerked in fright. The young man said, smiling, that here he was. A huge angry boar appeared in front of them. He growled. There is information about the rabid pig king, the ruler of the source of nightmares, standing at the very end of the first world. Those who managed to cross his path were torn to pieces. The girl stood with a staff and shook. She told Fang Suyan not to be afraid. This was her chance. Speaking to herself, she said that they would not be able to defeat him, even as a group, and there were only 2 of them. The young man turned around and looked at her and said to himself that she was so depressed by her constant failures that now fear had replaced this feeling. He told her to stand here and help Scorpio with the sick when needed. She asked him what he was doing. Smiling, the young man replied that he had only come here to clean up after the little pig. A huge, ferocious pig was running towards him, screaming. The guy created a super fireball and released it. He hit the boar exactly. Smoke and sparks started coming from the place. The living monster stood and hissed. The young man, looking at him, said that he thought that bosses had thicker skin, which would not be easy to break through. The monster opened its mouth and began to growl loudly. The scorpion roared, and another fireball exploded in front of it. He moved a little away from such an explosion. The guy kept hitting the boar with fireballs. Hitting him once more, he growled. The young man said to himself that it was a good thing that as long as Scorpio held back the blows, he could. Zhang Yu hit the pig boss with a fireball once more. He growled even louder. The monster blew the scorpion away. Glaring furiously, he snorted. Standing next to Scorpio, The guy said that it would not be so easy. The monster sent a reckless charge at the young man. The girl was shouting at him to dodge. The scorpion hissed. The young man said he needed to wait a bit. The silhouette of a boar rushing at him was reflected in his eyes. He said that he was still mute. A system window appeared that reported information about the rabid pig king. The monster rushed at Zhang Yu, but the guy was calm. Suddenly, he realized that this was his chance. He brandished his weapon. Everything was covered with a thick layer of ice. The girl loudly exclaimed that the bosses of the lower levels are predisposed to 50% resistance, which means that this icy effect will not last long. The monster broke free and roared loudly. The girl said he was angry again. She had previously heard that when the Pig King reached this condition, he would use a death stomp. With great anger, the scorpion threw the boar to the ground. After that, the monster burst into flames. Zhang Yu shouted loudly for his 400,000 to restore the scorpion's health. The girl agreed. She used magic on the monster, after which the screeching of monsters began to resound in the room again. The girl said in amazement that, even with full recovery, the scorpion would not last long, because they did not have enough damage to make up the difference. She said they shouldn't drag it out too much. Zhang Yu only said that it was enough. The guy grinned. The monster released a huge firepower while Zhang Yu was using ice. Their forces clashed in a fierce battle. The boar growled loudly. Even a 2-star boss of the 10th rank would not be able to withstand the bombardment of 2-star gold equipment of the mythical level. Zhang Yu grinned. The monster beeped loudly. The girl looked at it in amazement and thought that she had never seen a person capable of using these two skills so skillfully. The boar sighed heavily. Right after that, he collapsed to the ground, dead. Zhang Yu grinned as he watched the rewards of victory come to him. He had already decided which items he would sell, which he would take, and which he would leave to Scorpio. The girl also started receiving awards. She was completely shocked. She wondered if she was dreaming, and if she had really been able to throw off her status as a destructive spellcaster. Not only did she achieve this, but she also acquired an epic core class. Suddenly, the guys noticed that a system window was appearing in the air above them. The guys were praised for defeating the world boss. People were amazed to see that these people had cleared the first world in less than half a day. They didn't understand how they had done it. Even just the two of them. One of them realized that the name Su Yang belongs to a girl who has never had combat potential. Besides, she has always been in the way in all groups and demanded protection. He realized that someone was saving it and managed to defeat the boss on his own. Zhang Yu also read what was written there. He noticed that the red portal leads to the second world, and if he passes through the blue one, he will return. To begin with, he should have solved the problem with his basic expenses. The girl quickly asked where he was going. Zhang Yu only stated that he wanted to ask her sister about his payment. The guy took a step forward. She wondered if this meant that he was the mystical class hunter everyone was talking about. 0. It was quite bright in the fan building, in the center of Linghai City. The girl was standing by the window when her secretary told Miss Fan that she had received a call. On the phone, she was told that his work was done, and he would give her the details. He then clarified where she could transfer the money. The girl said nothing. Miss Fan said she would make sure first and then pay for everything. She sighed and said that it had only been half a day and he was already claiming to have completed the quest. Miss Fan was unhappy with the scammers these days. Suddenly, a girl ran into the room and told her sister that she could. Miss Fan asked if it was true. The girl said that not only was she able to dispel the Vessel of Calamity, but she also reached the epic basic class of the Taboo Caster. Miss Fan said that in the entire history of their family, none of the hunters could reach this level. The girl said that they probably needed a lot of help in completing the quest. The girl only said that only one guy helped her. Miss Fan turned pale and asked if that was the case. She quickly sat down at the table. Miss Fan asked Su Yang if this was the guy everyone was talking about. 0. The girl confirmed it. Everyone in the chat was discussing what had happened. Miss Fan said that the two of them managed to break all records and become the first group to reach the second world. With their skills, they will be able to improve the situation of this country. They decided to hold a constituent assembly right away. They had to lure 0 to their Misty Rain Pavilion in any way they could, so that they could clean up the second world before anyone thought about it. The girl greeted Zhang Yu and said that they had successfully received his payment. She asked him to let her know if he needed help. The guy noticed that they kept their word by paying him. Zhang Yu agreed and said he would hand his brother over to them. He stated that he would do everything in his power to be cured. To go. The girl reminded him that his brother was in a deplorable condition and they might have to detain him there. Zhang Yu thought it was a lot. If he had known, he would have accepted the man's offer. Suddenly, the guy froze. Noticing something, he spoke into the phone again. They asked the guy if he was interested in joining the Misty Rainy Pavilion Guild. Su Jin, the deputy head of the Misty Rainy Pavilion Guild, was talking to him. They covered his insurance, paid him a standard salary of 30,000 a month, and besides, he shouldn't forget about the bonuses. It was a perfect match. Zhang Yue agreed to join them, and everyone was incredibly happy. Suddenly, the guy said that he had one condition. They can request his services for anything, force him to participate in any major events, but under no circumstances will they restrict his personal freedom. The girl froze. Su Jin also thought about it. They did not understand his demands, because joining the guild means dedicating your whole life to its benefit. If everyone decides to do this and talk about freedom, then there will be no point in the guild. Zhang Yu took it as a no and was about to refuse. Everyone in the room fell silent. Su Cheng, the CEO of the Su Foundation, asked Jin if she really wanted this man. People said that Zhang Yu was too rude. The girl said that he was a professional who had managed to break a record that had not been beaten for 100 years before. He defeated the boss of the first world and completed the task, and it all took him less than a day. Such a player rarely appears. She wanted to protect him. Su Cheng wanted to object, but Su Yang told her uncle that the guy was really incredible. As it seemed to Miss Feng, they could fulfill his conditions and then start negotiations if they eventually decided to take him into their ranks. Anyway, he said he'd be involved in their business. He will not completely act in his own way. The man sighed and said that it was very good if he refused their power. Then they had no other choice. Zhang Yu saw the incoming call. The guy smiled. He thought they were only ranked 5th in the kingdom, but that was enough for him. Not to mention that their monthly salary and bonuses will easily cover medical expenses. Suddenly he froze. They told him on the phone that they were ready to go to a meeting. They asked at what time it would be convenient for him to come to their office. I prefer to work from home. The time zone wouldn't be a problem, because he was also from Linghai, and the same went for logging in. The girl gasped. Zhang Yu asked what was wrong, preparing to threaten her with breaking the contract. They said everything was fine, and they agreed. Zhang Yu stretched, thinking that since he was done talking, he wouldn't have to worry about income anymore. It was time for him to return to the otherworld and make his progress there. He created a magic seal. The guy chose to enter the second world. Zhang Yue grinned, wanting to proceed to the second world. He quickly entered the portal. Zhang Yue took a step forward. The guy found himself on an empty street. Zhang Yu silently looked at the system window. The required player level to enter the secret realm is the 15th. So, he'll have to raise his level first. Then the thought of passing through the kingdom will close to him. The second quest is easy to complete. It just needs to wait. Suddenly, someone shouted to be quick, because the next wave is coming very soon. Zhang Yu saw Captain Norris. He said those damn zombies chose the wrong time to attack Norden. They don't even have enough weapons. They have nothing to take their brothers with. Norden is a safe zone that is periodically attacked by waves of zombies. Of course, this puts everyone on edge. He turned to the young warriors and said that the battle would break out at any moment. They need to head west and collect materials from which they can forge new weapons. He asked if they could do it. There are only 10 available quests in Norden, but this one is the most difficult of them, as the enemy level varies from 11 to 20. Zhang Yu grinned, because at the same time, this task is the most generous for rewards. Once he's done with it, he won't have to worry about the rest. The guy asked Captain Norris to provide it to him. The man thanked Zhang Yu. On the outskirts of Norden, where there was a former military depot, everything was on fire. Monsters that looked like humans were pacing from side to side and hissing. The man took a few steps forward. He said it was time for them to start. Zhang Yue swung his weapon, and the monsters burst into flames. One by one, the zombies started running straight at the guy. Zhang Yu waved his arms, spreading the fire in all directions. He turned around, setting the scorpion on those zombies. Zhang Yu sighed, wondering if these zombies were really fire-resistant. They didn't take as much damage as he thought. He raised his hand, saying that, in that case, he needed to try something else. Zhang Yue decided to see how much they would have. The guy shouted loudly, ordering the silver-armored scorpion to take over the aggression. The monster hissed loudly, following its master's order. The scorpion grabbed one zombie by the arms and began to pull in different directions, which caused the monster to scream in pain. Zhang Yu smiled. He thought it was great, because he had an elite monster on his side. An armored scorpion with upgraded defense skills and equipped with all kinds of life-stealing abilities. These zombies won't win. However, Zhang Yu was confused by the fact that the monster was able to deal with them so easily. It made him a little nervous. Now, he was ready to launch an attack. He exclaimed that he was going to put out the fire with ice. At the same moment, The monster's body burned with ice. Zhang Yue easily killed this zombie and gained experience. He thought it was just some kind of pathetic bronze coin, and it looked like the loot from these monsters wasn't particularly valuable. He looked up sharply. Extremely quickly, he began to move from place to place, killing various monsters and receiving rewards, thereby increasing the level. And as a reward for his hard work, he only received 50 fire cores. Before completing the task, as before the moon, especially considering such a low level of loot loss. Besides, hunger is making itself felt. He thought that he shouldn't forget that he was just a human being. The guy decided to get out of the world and look for something to eat, and then pick up where he left off. At that very moment, the guy heard a loud growl that made him turn pale. He turned around, trying to figure out if what he was thinking was true. There was a huge flash of red and blue in the sky. Zhang Yu wondered if it was time for the boss to be reborn. With a neat step, a certain monster got out of the portal. The terrifying creature growled once it was there. It was the flaming ice zombie overlord. Zhang Yu was right. Very valuable rewards fall from the boss. He could bet his head that this monster would provide him with good equipment or a skill book. The guy laughed smugly, thereby attracting the monster's attention to himself. Zhang Yu waved his hand. The zombie lord looked at the guy in silence. The next moment, he charged at Zhang Yu with a loud roar. He hit the ground with all his might. Zhang Yu exclaimed that his business was bad. The zombie lord sent an ice attack on the guy. The guy took damage and flew back. Suddenly, he waved his wand, creating a yellow flash. He used fire magic, which left the monster with a Gorenji status. He also took a lot of damage from this attack. Zhang Yue realized that this zombie possessed two elements, fire and ice. And although he had spells of both of these elements, he could not increase their impact. This monster is Zhang Yu's main opponent. At that moment, the guy summoned a silver-armored scorpion, but it was immediately hit by a zombie. Zhang Yu was genuinely amazed by the damage. The monster began to gather ice power in his hand. He folded his arms, which caused ice stakes to appear there. The monster began to hurl them at the scorpion with all his might. Because of these attacks, Zhang Yu's pet died in battle, and it could only be revived after 3 hours. The guy was trapped. Zhang Yue was taken aback, because compared to the other bosses of the first world, this guy was on a completely different level. A large lightning bolt struck the monster, causing it to lose health. Su Yang stood behind Zhang Yu. The guy asked her what she was doing here. The girl quickly exclaimed that she would take over the crowd, and he needed to keep doing what he needed to do. The guy grinned. He told the monster that even if it could resist its attacks, Zhang Yue would still defeat it. The monster growled loudly. At that moment, Su Yang summoned a huge fireball. Zhang Yu turned around in amazement, realizing that the girl could also use a fireball. The girl waved her wand, summoning a ray of light. Her power enveloped the monster's entire body. Zhang Yue was completely amazed. The three skills seamlessly combined into each other. He assumed that this was the power of the forbidden magic class. He used a fireball and an ice spear, saying that it was better for the monster to forget about it. The zombie screamed in terrible pain. At that moment, Su Yang's power was also directed at the monster. Su Yang finished off the monster, which is why she received all the rewards. Zhang Yu smiled at this. He thanked the girl for her help and said they could split the rewards equally. Su Yang smiled and said that she didn't need it, because she had come to take the assignment. They bumped into each other there by accident, and anyway, she hadn't even had time to thank him yet for everything he had done for her. The guy was perplexed and said that her sister had already transferred money to his account for helping her. The girl said it wasn't for her, but for her sister. Su Jinyan stretched out her hand and asked the guy's name. Zhang Yue looked at her in silence. Then he turned around with a smile and said his name. Since they are in the same guild, and they both participated in the collection quest, Su Yang suggested that they team up, because it would be much better. Zhang Yu asked what effects her class had. The girl happily said that all her crowd control skills were considered taboo, so their effect lasts 30% longer. In addition, all her skills have received a 30% reduction in cooldown time. Zhang Yu smiled, thinking that this explained everything. With the ability to control the crowd, it will be 100% easier for him. The girl asked where the guy was going. Zhang Yu explained that he was heading back to Norden, and they would be able to team up in 10 minutes. He quickly touched the ground. The girl blushed, remembering how she used to tell herself that she would marry anyone who would break her curse. Su Yang shook her head, trying to figure out what she was thinking. It was very embarrassing for her. And so the night fell. Zhang Yu saw 3 pieces of equipment and a skill book. He decided that he would sell everything 1 star and keep the rest. He had 10 points added to his agility, which was not bad. Next, he needed an enhanced, more destructive skill. At that moment, an incredible force burst out of his hand. The processing has started. It was a super-flamed bullet of rank A. The guy waved his hand. He smiled, thinking that with his speed and new skill, no one would be able to reach him. Suddenly, he looked away. He saw that Su Yang was inviting him to join the Mist Rain Pavilion Guild. He accepted her invitation. He was now a member of the guild. He had already finished with his skills and equipment, and therefore it was time for him to return. Zhang Yu used this bullet on one of the zombies, who immediately began to suffer from pain. Everything was covered in flames. Twofold said that Zhang Yu was incredible, because he defeated this monster with one blow. The guy said she did a good job too. She has great awareness and control over the situation, especially during her control spells. Su Yang said with a smile that her sister had gotten them for her. She said that this equipment is suitable for her class. The guy thought it was probably nice to have her loaded up like that. The girl suddenly asked Zhang Yu if he was hiding the additional effect of his equipment. With such a high attack level, he surely has myth-level equipment. The guy just said it had nothing to do with the case. He's just a mythical class hunter. Su Yang found it hard to believe. Usually the appearance of a mythical class hunter is accompanied by some kind of strange phenomenon, but this year nothing like this happened. This year the appearance of a mythical class has also not been established. The guy said she might not believe him. Anyway, it's impossible to awaken his class using ordinary methods. They were done with the ice and flames, leaving only the poisonous cores, which the guy offered to deal with. They decided to head straight for the nest of poisonous zombies. Suddenly, they received a notification that everyone was required to arrive in the city soon. The girl asked Zhang Jun what he was up to and why he was so suddenly scared by such ads. Zhang Yue assumed that it was someone important. Su Yang said that Chen Juna is the guildmaster of the Linghai branch. His father and her uncle, President Mu, were sworn brothers. That's how he got his job. Zhang Yu said that this was a common guild matter, and they needed to go. The huge zombie growled violently. He defeated huge armies of people. Many people died when arrows pierced their bodies due to a single attack from this monster. No one could handle him. The man shouted to Liu Yao that they were the first to find this boss, and he couldn't just come here and take him for himself. In response, Liu Yao said that everything was fair because they were just a small guild that they would crush. A magic circle appeared in the air, from which fire arrows flew in different directions. One of these arrows pierced the man, after which he screamed painfully. Liu Yao turned around and asked who dared to stand in his way. At that moment, someone took a few steps forward. Zhang Yu grinned when he saw him. He noticed that this man was now fighting with his guild for the boss. An hour ago, the monster was smashing everything around. People used shields and arrows to fight this zombie. However, none of their attacks could hit the monster enough. One of the warriors turned around and told the guildmaster that it was too risky to face the boss without a control technique. The man asked what they were afraid of. He stated that they just need to wait for Jin Young. The man ordered them to hold their formation, attack as long as they could hold out. Someone took a step forward. The soldiers asked if it was the young lady of the Su family. They said that she really looks like the Snow Queen, and it's not for nothing that they call her that. She was out of reach. They also saw a guy next to her, and did not believe that he had helped her. They said it looked too simple. Su Yang told Zhang Yu not to listen to them because it's not true. The guy just sighed. The girl blushed, trying to figure out what she was even thinking about. She was getting worried. The man smiled when he saw that Jin Young had come. Then he saw this guy next to her and asked why she was going out with him unaccompanied. The girl turned to Guildmaster Chen, saying that he was absolutely not concerned with the issue of her environment. The man agreed, but considered his concern natural, because her companion may have dishonest intentions. The girl told him to calm down, because she knows perfectly well how to distinguish black from white. Su Yang asked what happened to them. The man told her that the zombie fortress had been upgraded, and the boss had been reborn next to her. Zhang Yue agreed with this. Su Yang said it was the boss, the zombie king. They are not updated as often, which means that if they defeat the boss after his rebirth, they will provide their guild with great help. Zhang Yue agreed. The man stopped Zhang Yue, and the guy asked why. Cheng Jun said that an ordinary beast tamer had snuck into their guild hoping to grab some leftovers. He said that Zhang Yu shouldn't be so arrogant. They said that animals are difficult to tame, and therefore Zhang Yu must be of a low level. They had also seen his equipment, and were sure that he had spent everything on it. They were sure that they would simply lose resources. Su Yang exclaimed that they didn't understand who he was. Zhang Yu only exclaimed that since he was the guildmaster, he would make the final decision. The girl sighed. Su Yang grabbed him and said that if he stayed, she wouldn't go anywhere either. Cheng Jiang said that she needed to calm down, because he was just worried that all this could lead to his senseless death, because he looked weak. He said he would not interfere and ordered her to prepare the resurrection scroll. He told her to go with him, because with her control, they would be able to strike without worrying too much. Su Yang asked Zhang Yu to wait until she returned to him. Zhang Yu knew that this was a level 15 boss. This battle will take some time, even with Su Jinin's help. Even with that much, it's just a matter of time. He decided to see what a 5th level guild was capable of. Someone called Zhang Yu loudly. The guy was smiling slyly. The people were startled to notice this beast tamer. They asked how he managed to do so much damage. Liu Yao asked him if the guy had joined the Misty Rain Pavilion. Ling Yuer said that Zhang Yu was ungrateful, because Brother Yao invited him to join the higher guild. But instead he decided to serve Misty Rain. She didn't think that he would fall so much. A massive magical energy appeared in the air. Ling Yunger was covered in it and screamed in pain. Su Yang only said softly that it should be quieter now. The guy smiled. Liu Yao turned to Zhang Yu. He asked how much the Misty Rain Pavilion was paying him, after which he stated that he would give 3 times more. Zhang Yue would even be able to become the guild's deputy master, and he would be treated like the CEO. Su Yang asked how a man dares to lure Zhang Yu to his side without being embarrassed by their presence. Zhang Yue was a man of honor. Being in the ranks of the Misty Rain, fulfilling their tasks, he can't just switch sides. But no one knows what will happen tomorrow. When the right time comes, they'll bring it up again. Liu Yao happily said that the higher guild would always welcome him, and their doors were open to him. The man ordered the troops to leave there. One of them exclaimed that they almost got this boss, and now they can't just give up. Liu Yao asked who cares about this boss at all. He said that a man needs to look at the situation more broadly. Then, the 2 of them left there. Zhang Yu looked at it in silence. Su Yang thanked the guy for that. Zhang Yu only said that she shouldn't thank him, because he had to do it. At this time, the boss growled again. He swung and was ready to hit the place where the guys were standing. He raised his weapon after striking. There was a crater on the ground. Zhang Yue turned to the king of zombie despair. He said with a grin that this world was on him. A huge explosion thundered on the field. He got right on top of the monster. People were shouting that the guy was very strong. He took 1/3 of the boss's health in one go. People were amazed, because everyone said that he was just a tamer. Zhang Yue said that Su Yang knows what to do. She agreed. She had bound this monster with her control. Zhang Yue raised his staff high into the sky. After that, the monster began to explode. There was absolutely nothing he could do. Zhang Yu walked forward in silence. The guy defeated the boss and gained experience. People were genuinely amazed by Zhang Yu's powers and asked where he was from. Even though he's weakened, he's still very cool. The guy defeated the boss and scared the top guild, which earned him respect. Su Yang thanked him and said that if it wasn't for him, the higher guild would definitely have taken this boss for themselves. The guy said he was just doing his job as a guild member. He grinned while people were saying they needed to look up to him. Night had fallen in Nordina. Zhang Yue was walking with Su Yang in his arms. Cheng Zhongyun asked if the guy was back and what about the boss. He didn't believe that the guy had defeated him. Another person said that Lady Su and the tamer had chased away the top guild and killed the boss. The master did not believe that the tamer had such power. The guy said he was incredible. Even simple attacks could easily kill anyone, but not him. Their guild will become much stronger with Zhang Yu. Cheng Zhang said it was just a laugh. He stated that the guy was waiting for them to get worse so that he could be lenient and intervene later. He pointed his finger at Zhang Yu and said that he didn't care who he was. If he didn't listen to the master's orders, he would throw him out of the guild, and he had the right to do so. Zhang Yu squeezed Cheng Jun's finger tightly. He remembered exactly how the man had ordered him to stand aside. One of the guys nearby asked how Zhang Yu dares to order the guildmaster around. Zhang Yue Dai said that, not to mention the assignment to defeat the boss, he could be happy. The mission was completed. Su Yang said that without Zhang Yu, they would have lost the boss, and they would all have been destroyed too. The guy deserved recognition for his achievements. Everyone fell silent. Su Yang said that it was time for them to go, because there were still many tasks to complete. The guildmaster was silent. He was very angry and ordered the guy to keep an eye on them. He also said that it was necessary to know about Zhang Yu's weaknesses and inform Cheng Jun about it. Everything on the streets sparkled with magic. There was a terrible smell. Su Yang sighed and said that it stinks. Zhang Yu said that the zombies' poison was scarier than their ice and flames, and so she had to be careful. The girl asked how strong their attacks were. Zhang Yu said that they don't have elemental properties, but they make up for it with their dangerous skills. A poisonous zombie imposes a poison status on enemies, which cannot be immediately cancelled. Su Yang was tense after learning this. Zhang Yu said that she needs to use the treatment periodically. The girl agreed. Suddenly, she froze. Zhang Yu handed the girl the reward for completing the guild quest. She thanked him for it. A powerful spell shone in the air. The zombie growled loudly. Su Yang shouted for Zhang Yu to attack faster. The guy rushed forward. Zhang Yu cast a powerful spell that knocked the zombies back. Su Yang said with a smile that his attacks were impressive because he killed them with one blow. The guy thanked her gently and said that everything went easier than he expected. Together, the guys went forward. Zhang Yue saw something from behind and fell silent. Someone turned to the guildmaster and said that the guy he was ordered to follow was completing the tasks with the young lady. They're collecting zombie cores. His people reported that they were on friendly terms and joking together. Chang Jun was extremely unhappy with their close relationship. After she got that damn class, she hadn't smiled at him once. The guy said that if the man wanted to kick Zhang Yu out of the guild, they needed to separate them. Suddenly, a large system window appeared in front of them. The message said that in 30 minutes, a huge horde of the 13th level would attack the city. The man smiled, asking how Zhang Yu could touch him and steal his girlfriend. He stated that he would find a way so that he would no longer be able to stay in the Misty Rain Pavilion. It won't be difficult for him to do it either. The guy told the guildmaster that they had the Scrolls of Rebirth. In addition, killing players in the safe zone is impossible, as well as recovery points. They're probably not going to be easy. Cheng Jun spoke about the rules of this world. Once the horde arrives, these protections will not be available to other hunters. They only had to defeat him. A huge pile of people was lying on the ground. Suddenly, coins appeared in the sky. Su Yang said that they would be done with everything in a little while. The horde would appear in half an hour, and they wanted to deal with it. Suddenly, the zombie bit Zhang Yu with all its might. The guy gasped in pain. Su Yang screamed loudly and started attacking in that direction. Zhang Yu grabbed his weapon and punched the monster over his shoulder. The black liquid dripped down. Su Yang looked at Zhang Yu, who had fallen to the ground, and asked if he was okay. The guy said that if she walked along the shore, she would get her feet wet. They're done here, and it's time for them to get back. Someone was watching them from the side. It was already dark outside. The guys completed the task and received a large number of awards and experience. Su Yang happily exclaimed that she had reached level 16 and semi, and had purchased two 2-star level 15 equipment. She asked, "What about him?" The guy said that he had raised the 15th level. The scorpion's level began to rise. If the guy hadn't shared his experience with his pet, then he would definitely have already raised the 20th level. Su Yang asked if he needed to upgrade his equipment, as the horde would be arriving very soon. The guy figured it out. He looked at the two messages with a smile and decided that it was time for them to start already. Zhang Yu got a good level 15 equipment. With 2 pieces of this equipment, plus his level 15 armored silver scorpion, no one from the second world would be able to lay a finger on him. The girl exclaimed that they were ready to fight the horde. Suddenly, Su Yang noticed that they were looking for her. She was told to come to the office because her presence was necessary. Even her sister was waiting for her there. Su Yang assumed that something terrible had happened. The girl apologized and said that she had family problems, and he would have to fight the horde on his own. The guy said that everything was fine. When the invasion starts, he won't be able to leave. Su Yang said that there would be too many of them, even if they were only level 13. They can overwhelm him with numbers. She said he needed to be careful. Zhang Yui thanked her for her concern. A portal began to open in front of the guy. The whole sky was ablaze with lightning. The horde began to advance. A lot of people were silently looking at this sky. An announcement has arrived that a horde of zombies is coming soon. The doors slowly opened. A whole bunch of monsters ran out from there. People began to huddle together to protect themselves and their friends. Someone was screaming in panic. Suddenly, everything caught fire. The zombies were coming in an endless stream, and they only had to hold out for an hour. After this prolonged attack, they will simply retreat. Zhang Yu thought that they only needed to kill 50 of them. The guy silently looked at the messages in the windows. Zhang Yu grinned. He said he'd be here soon. The guy was looking at a bunch of defeated people. Someone was watching him through the window. Cheng Zhang was amazed that the guy had come to his senses so easily. He stated that he was too smug. He asked if his friend was sure his defenses were low. The guy agreed and noticed that he was dealing high damage, but the encounter with the zombies had visibly battered him. They decided that he had spent everything on damage, forgetting about protection, and, according to the man's orders, he brought 12 archers there, who are currently sitting in ambush. With his low level of protection, this should work. Cheng Jun laughed and said that as soon as they dealt with him, he would prepare his men for the rebirth site. He won't last a second. He decided to kill the guy over and over again. He laughed, saying that the girl he was touching belonged to him. Zhang Yu confidently walked forward and said that he was here. He stopped in his tracks. At that very moment, many arrows flew at him. Zhang Yu quickly summoned his scorpion. Cheng Jun and that guy gasped in amazement. The guildmaster asked if that guy had told him that he was just a weak tamer. They didn't know how he did it. Due to the attack by his guild's hunters, the guy won't receive penalty points for killing opponents. He said it was time to end it. It was his turn to attack. People were running away in terror when Zhang Yu started attacking. He killed a man. The scorpion squeezed and defeated one after another, and for this, Zhang Yu received no sins. The guy was walking down the street, where there were only bodies. His face was very stern. Cheng Jiang asked how this guy could possibly be so strong. He asked the guy if he had said that his defense characteristics had weakened. He started demanding explanations. The guy exclaimed that he didn't know anything either. There was an explosion next to them, and they moved away. Zhang Yue walked forward in silence. He asked if they really thought they could beat him with such pathetic tricks. Cheng Jun tensed up a lot and asked the guy what it meant. The guy smiled and said that ever since they had defeated the boss, Cheng Jun had been watching him and looking for a convenient chance for them to kill him. Cheng Jiang asked if this meant that the guy was deliberately pretending to have poor defenses and imitating his sweets in order for the guildmaster to let down his guard. Zhang Yu had nothing against the master, he just wanted to see the reaction. Everything began to shine. Cheng Jiang asked what would happen if he looked. The guildmaster wanted to kill the guy. Zhang Yue swung his spear. Cheng Jun's attack was stopped, which made him confused. The guy screamed and asked how Zhang Yu dared to point his blade at his superiors. He ordered his death. The other guy immediately jumped into the fight. Zhang Yu deftly summoned his powers. He easily defeated the one who was going to kill him now. Cheng Jun can't believe that Zhang Yu was able to defeat an elite spiritual assassin. He asked who this guy was. The man was shouting loudly. Zhang Yu said with a grin that he was someone they should not mess with. The guy asked in amazement, did this man really clear the first world in half a day? They also didn't understand why he was a necromancer, because they were sure that he was just a tamer. Cheng Jun didn't know either. The man realized why his IUD was constantly hidden. He claimed that the guy was just pretending to be weak. Cheng Zhongyan exclaimed that he would never side with the guy. It was raining in the real world. Outside the Su family building, someone was shouting that they would never agree to this. Su Yang was shouting loudly about what she had already said, that she had never liked Qin Jiang. The man said that this was not a reason to refuse, because love is such a strange feeling that can come through time. He told Jinyan that Uncle Chen had also prepared something for her. There was a large amount of potions and devil armor. They spent 5 million on the potion, and the Chen family invested 8 million in sponsoring the search for a blacksmith capable of forging this armor. He said that Zhongzhan is his only son. It is obvious that he will inherit the company. As soon as Su Yang marries him, all his possessions will be at her disposal. Su Yang thanked him for his generosity, but she would like to make her own decisions. The man was angry. He shouted and asked if Jinyan had any idea how much the Su family had spent on her development. They didn't believe that she could talk such nonsense in public. Miss Fan stood up silently. She approached Su Yang and asked her uncle to understand that her sister was not a bargaining chip. No one should make such decisions for her. She asked Jinyan not to worry, because her sister would always be on her side, especially in matters of finding her happiness. Su Yang thanked her. Suddenly, a message came to Miss Fan's phone. The man also received this message. They screamed in amazement. They received news that Chen Jun had killed Zhang Yu. Uncle Chen said that his son got the guild head position in return for his sponsorship of the Chu base, but it turns out that their people pointed their swords at his son. Another man asked the director to calm down. He was sure there was some kind of misunderstanding. The director jumped up and said that if something had happened to his son, he would come back. There was a knock on the door. The man asked if the guy hired by Miss Fan had done it. He asked if she knew how long the Chen family had sponsored them as the main investors. Su Yang said that there must be a good reason for this. She is sure that Zhang Yue would not attack the members of his own guild just like that. The man told them to shut up and bring Zhang Yu there. He would make the guy bow down to the Chen family, otherwise he would be banished from the misty rainy pavilion. Su Yang was startled. At that moment, Miss Fan received a call from Zhang Yu. She answered his call and asked where he was, and if it was true that he had killed Zhang Jun. Zhang Yu said with a smile that he was coming out. He only quickly said that he was leaving the misty rainy pavilion. Su Jinan dialed Zhang Yu's number, and when he answered, she began to ask with concern in her voice that Chen Jun had provoked him first, suggested that she take her time with her decision. She said that she would prove his innocence. A guy's voice came from the other side of the phone, saying there was no need to prove his innocence. He was looking at his phone, thinking that it would be better for him if he drew clear boundaries between the misty, rainy pavilion now that Zhang is vindictive, and he needs to protect himself. Zhang Yu walked down the road, thinking that with 50,000 hospital bills every month, he would have to rely on the money collected from the sale of materials, and that he needed to clean up the world as quickly as possible. There is a stone tower and houses built of the same type. He thinks that to complete the mission of the second world, he still needs to stop 2 waves of zombies, and then deal with the secret kingdom. The task of the second world is to act as one of the survivors, in order to unite and complete 2 more world tasks and complete 3 waves. He put his hand to his chin, thinking that the 3 secret realms of the undead had a high level, so the materials would be higher. He's level 17, and clearing level 20 is not a problem for him. An unfamiliar crowd of people in gear approached him, calling out to him. The head of this company asked the main character that he was the famous tamer of the misty rainy pavilion. Zhang Yu said to get out of the way. The leader of these people said that he would not, and asked what he would do. Others only agreed with his words, provoking him into being scared. The main character immediately realized that he was being provoked, and his face took on a shade of indifference. His oppressive aura stirred up his rivals, and he demanded, in a demanding voice, how much Chen Jiang had paid them. The chief, with fear but feigned courage, said that he understood correctly, and they would be paid 5,000 each, and a scroll of rebirth. For each death, they would receive this money. A smirk appeared on the main character's face. He said that he would pay 10,000 for him to kill them. It seems he has a high opinion of him. He thought it was easy to kill, but that would turn his name red and he wouldn't be able to enter the safe zone, wouldn't even be able to fight the boss, and would forever remain in this world. A guy enters the conversation, who exclaims that for the murder of the guildmaster of the misty rainy pavilion, he will pay 50,000 for each death, and the same amount for the murder. A crowd of people are talking in surprise about who is so generous, and do not believe that he has so much money. One of the newly arrived guy's subordinates introduces him as young Mr. Liu Yao, saying that he is the eldest son of the Luqi family, and that he is the richest man in Linghai. The commander of this company abruptly began to praise Mr. Liu, telling him to listen to his words and move, while the others happily agreed. Liu Yao began to address Zhang Yu, talking to him about what he had heard, saying that he had been kicked out of the guild and that Chen Jun was shouting everywhere, saying that he would complicate his life. He also agreed with this. A devious expression appeared on Mr. Liu's face. He told that the dogs of the guild were blind, offered to set a price and join them, guaranteeing safety. The main character offered to talk about it later, explaining that he was not looking for a guild now. Liu Yao's subordinate began to express his dissatisfaction with the fact that his master had done a lot for the hero, and the hero did not even thank him. He also said that he understands the hero and therefore will give time to think. The guy was walking along a path consecrated by a bluish glow. His face was expressionless, but he was thinking that Chen Jun would become a huge pain, and even leaving the guild wouldn't help. He was heading to a level 15, dark undead lair. As he walked, his mind was occupied with the fact that many hunters form teams, but for low-level undead, few people care about teams. When he reached the right place, he saw the sorcerer Mona NPS, who had a large door under the barrier. The old man asked Zhang Yu if he wanted to enter the dark realm. A green emerald-like crystal appeared in the sorcerer's hand. The guy only confirmed the old man's guesses, and the old man only wished the traveler good luck, handing him the key to the gate. The main character was thinking that the usual secret decree of the dark undead lair could be upgraded to gold. Then the dark realm can transform into a secret realm, but the probability is low. His face lit up. He assumed that regardless of the probability, he would use maximum purification until he obtained the golden decree for himself. At that time, Chen Jun was being hunted. People were running after him, shouting that there were 50,000 of them running away and calling for him to be killed. He was running away with his partner. Addressing his friend, he said that he had paid them money, so why did they come back and start attacking him? His friend suggested that Zhang Yue might have arranged it. He advised the guildmaster to wait until the weekly limit and usage of the rebirth scrolls are reset, and only then go to level up. Chen Jun went berserk and hit a tree with his hand, swearing that he would kill Zhang Yue. A system window appeared, in which it was narrated that an unknown person had upgraded an ordinary secret kingdom to a hidden one. They are invited to challenge, and they will receive a rebirth scroll as an advantage. Chen Zhang rejoiced, saying that heaven would bless him and he would be able to clear a small realm of level 15 and ordered a gathering of guild members to get the best equipment. The giant monster with spikes on its shoulders screamed at the top of its voice from the blow it received. Liu Kao held the sword that defeated the giant. He said that free rebirth for those who don't have it is a gift from heaven. He ordered all the guild members to gather and prepare for the march. There were many bodies of monsters that Zhang Yu had killed behind his back. He was thinking about one of the tasks of the second world, or rather, about clearing the secret realm. Holding the decree of the Dark Kingdom in his hand, continuing his thought that after the improvement, the level of rewards that can be obtained in the lair has increased significantly, and that Chen Jun will seduce him. The defeated giant was slowly smoldering, and some purple glowing appendages appeared from its back. These appendages formed a large monster that screamed deafeningly, announcing its appearance. The main character turned to this monster, smiling and thinking about how to ensure the calm execution of his hunting plan. First, he needs to deal with the guardian of the secret kingdom. He was using a staff for fire magic, and at that time the staff was screaming shrilly loudly. His level is level 15, and the magic type is a boss. Health is 1350, and skill is a dark deadly light and an explosion of a cursed corpse. A powerful explosion shattered the earth. This blast wave was able to harm the guardian, cutting off many of his limbs. The giant monster is defeated, and its body glows brightly, gradually starting to fade. Zhang Yu's eyes lit up with anger. He turned to the monster with a warning, telling him to behave appropriately. Otherwise, he would face the same fate as his subordinates. A system window appeared in the air, warning that a large number of players had entered the dark undead lair. The main character turned to the system. Closing his eyes, he began to think that for Chen Jun and others who couldn't access the rebirth scroll, the secret realm offered a good opportunity that couldn't be missed. Su Jinyan appeared on the battlefield, who was not expected to be here. At the same time, the lady was clearly surprised that the Supreme Guild was also here. At this time, the main character was thinking that his goal was only one person, and it would be better if he did not involve outsiders. Holding the crystal in his hand, he activated the rule change. The golden secret decree glowed more brightly, giving a system window that stated that, as the owner, he had the right to change the rules 3 times. People were fighting monsters. The guide turned to Jinyan, telling her not to stray far from him. To these words, the girl only thought irritably that she was going to go in search of the main character. If it wasn't for her uncle, she wouldn't have cared about the fate of this coward. A system window appeared in which she said that the rules had changed, and now the receipt of free scrolls was cancelled. A new list of tasks: kill 300 zombies, and the leader of the undead. Chen Jiang got angry, shouting about what was going on and whether the owner of the decree had gone off the rails. He emotionally assumed that he wanted to die. His subordinate, who had guessed wrongly that Zhang Yu might have changed the rules. After all, he had deliberately deceived them. Before he could finish his thought, he was interrupted. The guildmaster began to aggressively express his doubts about this assumption. The probability of this is low, and it is unlikely that he decided to spend hundreds of thousands of alternative energy just to annoy him. Su Jinyan objected, saying that these rules look like they are aimed at someone in particular. To which Zhang Juan began to deny it. He began to praise himself, saying that she would not worry, as he would help her clear the dungeon, saying that 500 zombies were not enough for him, and they would finish quickly. Jinyan's face showed awkwardness. She thought that it was better for him to help himself rather than her. The guild of the Misty Rainy Pavilion went on to the secret lair. The guild leader was motivating the participants that they had to kill the boss and be the first to clear the kingdom so that all the rewards would pass into the hands of the Misty Rainy Pavilion. One of the participants addressed him, saying that it seemed there was someone here, and Zhang Zhan couldn't believe that someone could be faster than their guild. Zhang Yu addressed them, saying that they had finally arrived. The head's face twisted in a grimace of surprise. Su Jinyan rejoiced at the familiar voice that she recognized. The main character was sitting on the fallen guard. He looked at the arriving crowd with an ominous expression on his face and addressed them, saying that he had to wait a long time for them. Su Jinyan was happy to see the guy. She asked what he was doing here and said that she was just going to look for him. The guild leader became angry, expressing his indignation that it was the protagonist who changed the rules of the secret realm, asking where he got the golden secret decree from. The guy jumped off the monster's body. He assumed that Zhang Zhuan was trying to find an opportunity to get even with him, and he got it. The head did not want to fall into a trap and was sure that he could die today. Hiding behind the backs of his subordinates, he shouted out why he had such confidence and said that he was supported by the Chen family. And how does he have such confidence? As if he can challenge. Continuing to arrogantly say that they would be able to drain his health thanks to Jinyan, she refused to support his ridicule, saying how could he treat him like that? The guildmaster's face faded. Having accepted this, he ordered everyone to rush to attack the main character. but others said that they had a low level and did not want to go to certain death. He clenched his jaw hard at the defiance of his men. To motivate them, he said he would give $5,000 for each of their deaths, because they have objection scrolls. They were considering his offer. They charged, drawing their weapons from their scabbards. Zhang Yu grinned, saying that compared to the level 9 wave, the members of the Misty Rainy Pavilion are nothing. Several people began to strike together. The main character dodged and beat them off without unnecessary movements and with complete ease. The system windows popped up, informing him that he had killed 3 Misty Rainy Pavilion hunters. His eyes sparkled. He thought he had done the right thing when he added to the rules that killing hunters does not increase his sin points. Chen Jun commanded the guild members, urging them on and telling them that while Zhang Yu was surrounded, they needed to complete the task and clear the secret realm. Suddenly, a monster appeared. They were surprised, but not confused, saying that it was just an armored scorpion pet, and one of them decided to deal with it alone. He hit him on the head with a smile, saying that he would easily win. But unexpectedly for everyone, his sword broke on the giant's head, and this man began to resent that he was a level 14 fighter, and how did it happen that he failed to deal damage? The main character grinned as he talked about how it would be strange if they could damage a level 15 elite silver scorpion with golden protection. Suddenly, there was an arrow attack. Chen Jiang said to kill them all, and then he would give 20,000 yuan for each one. But his men were defending themselves from the arrows, and did not understand where they were coming from. Zhang Yu looked on indifferently at their attempts to defend themselves. The crowd rushed into battle, shouting that they would kill. The main character was about to dodge, but these people ran past. They rushed towards the Misty Rainy Pavilion Guild. Zhang Yu didn't understand what was going on. Lu Yao appeared. He loudly told how Chen Jun dared to touch his people, and tried to reassure the guy that he was nearby. His face twisted, and he wondered who the guy was again, and where he was from. The guild leader of the Misty Rainy Pavilion was furiously asking what all this meant, and he had never targeted anyone from their guild. He just grinned, saying that he had heard that he liked using money to solve problems, and he wondered who had more money. He pointed his finger at the members of the rival guild, offering the opportunity to get rich, saying that whoever kills his master, he will pay $1 million. They were shocked by the amount mentioned, but Chen Jiang shouted that how dare they betray him, and said that anyone who goes against him will become an enemy of the Chen and Su families. Suddenly the ground shook, and everyone was at a loss, asking what it was. Suddenly, the guard stood up when he was already down. The main character began to worry, thinking that in another world, when the health of the local overlord drops to a low level, he is unlikely to enter berserk mode. The overlord drew his weapon, and he began to scream immensely loudly, deafening all the people around him. He recovered, covered himself with protective scales, and evolved to a level 17 3-star boss, becoming the tyrant of the undead. Lu Yao was scared. He started shouting that no one had warned him that he could level up. The monster abruptly began to attack. Roaring, he caused a powerful blast wave that people just flew up. A system window appeared, which notified that due to the guardian entering berserk mode, the level of the lair had increased, and people could leave the location. And Zhang Zhuan was happy. Someone mocked Lu Yao, saying he was an expert in simulation. The guildmaster drew his bow, saying that he would make you pay for everything. There was madness in his gaze, and he released the arrow, grinning. The arrow hit the shoulder of the lair boss, and Lu Yao just sat there motionless. Suddenly, the Lord of the Dark Kingdom's head turned towards him. His eyes sparkled with madness and anger. Mr. Lu could only sit motionless, afraid to move. He begged for salvation. The monster swung his weapon with all his might, which the man just stared at in shock. Unexpectedly, the silver-armored scorpion joined the battle with the giant on Zhang Yu's orders. He skillfully blocked his attack. The main character did not expect that after leveling the boss, his silver-armored scorpion would lose so much health. Chen Jiang mocked the guy, saying that he would have to wait tens of thousands of years to kill him. He told them to have fun here, and he leaves, being already near the portal. The guy with the worried face ordered Lu Yao not to move. The hero scorpion was desperately trying to protect the man. Even if he loses a lot of health, he won't let him get it. And at that time, the gentleman was begging for help. Zhang Yu was thinking that he could only use the teleporter once, and he would have to choose whether to catch up with Cheng Juan or save Lu Yao. A sharp slide of the foot on the ground. He chose Mr. Yao, moving quickly towards him. Ice covered the monster, and it growled in pain. Taking the man by the arm, he ordered him not to move. The giant started attacking the people, but they had already run away, and the attack did not reach them. Cheng Jun thought that even though he had used the A-level Icehorn skill, He had still only dealt him 100 plus damage. He was standing in front of the boss, and he thought that it would be difficult to compete with a level 17 3-star boss while blocking his sword attack. The hero started running fast. He realized that he would have to rely on his agility to be able to counterattack him while dodging. He stabbed him 3 times, zigzagging to avoid getting caught. The monster screamed from the impact, and Zhang Yue ran at high speed, deftly dodging the attacks. Mr. Liu was watching the battle, and he started shouting at his subordinate, asking why he was standing around and not helping. The same man replied that he would only get in the way if they joined the battle. The main character stopped. His hand was injured, tearing his clothes, and he realized that this giant was fast. Fatigue appeared on his face. Suddenly, he jumped back, braking hard, and a cloud of smoke rose. The boss of the secret lair raised his weapon over the guy's head, and the guy was taken aback, not expecting such a quick attack. He quickly thought that this was bad. The weapon of the guardian of the secret dark realm appeared a few centimeters in front of Zhang Yu's face. He was a little surprised and shocked. The lord of the dark lair suddenly began to scream, and his body was illuminated by a purple glow. The guy managed to dodge the blow. Su Jinyan joined the fight. She shouted at him to fight as usual. She was on the support, and he was on the attack. Her body was bursting with lilac little sparks, similar to lightning. The guy's face became calm. He was preparing to strike again. Holding a staff in his hand, his core began to complete the spell he had just begun. The giant was struck by a strong fire spell that exploded his body. He began to growl in pain. Liu Yao and his guild members were surprised. One of them said that they were so good that they could handle a 3-star boss alone, and the guild leader clarified if it wasn't the second sister of the Su family who had recently become a spellcaster. Mr. Liu grinned. He started saying that only one person would be able to damage the monster, and that was Brother Yu, adding that if they were in their place, they would have died 1,000,000 times already. His face lit up, and he loudly said that he had to recruit Jinyan and Brother Yu into his guild. His guildmates were confused. They reminded him that he couldn't even handle her sister. At this time, the battle with the monster continued. His scarlet eyes drained of malice. He was attacked from all sides by fire magic. A piercing scream. His whole body was covered in wounds, and there were burns in many places. Zhang Yue was glad that this giant's health was almost at 0. Jin Yan was suddenly alarmed, and she told her partner that there would most likely be a final attack now. The unexpected statement of the protagonist that he is the one who changed this secret realm. His face was hidden in the shadows. The girl, with her mouth open, still in shock, asked what he had said. Quickly recovering from the shock, she began to cast some kind of spell, as a result of which her body began to glow with a bright purple fire, at the same time saying that everything was clear to her now. Having almost completed the spell, she raised her staff high above. His hilt was wrapped in flying sparks of flame, feeding it for more spell power. She loudly shouted a spell called Fiery Light, and the blast wave headed straight for the monster, depriving it of a foothold. The remnants of the flames after this attack lit up the square little. The participants in the secret realm received a level up, and they were shocked. A system window appeared, announcing inside the Northern City area that Hunter Su Yang had cleared a level 15 dark undead lair, so she was receiving a level 15 realm scroll. People were happy about this news. Liu Yao started hugging Zhang Yu, saying that he was his savior, who only replied that if it wasn't for him, Chen Jun would have died long ago. He thought to wait until more problems started, as he would become a thorn in the side of many. Disappointed, Mr. Liu asked the guy what to do then. He abruptly changed his face and offered to pay $1,000,000 in compensation, who only asked if he had anything besides money. The eldest son of the Liu family proudly stated that, of course he has a dream, to gather all the strong players and create a powerful guild, which is why Brother Yu should join him. He began to persuade him, saying that his family was the largest representative of a pharmaceutical company in Linghai, and if he joined, he would have endless supplies of medicines. He just told me to back off. Yao's face instantly became serious. He told Brother Yu to listen. His family has good connections with the blacksmith family in the Dragon Kingdom, and he continued to list that he has a good relationship with the family of magicians. Something interested Zhang Yue, and he interrupted the guy's monologue, asking about the Su family, the blacksmiths. Noticing this, Liu Yao continued his monologue, talking about the Su family. He said that his father and the head of the Su family are old friends, and they will be able to provide him with any equipment he wants. The main character reflected that blacksmiths always forge equipment of better quality than what he usually bought. When he saw that he had almost taken the bait, he said that it was okay that he did not want to join the guild, because in that case they could become friends, and in that case he could help him with the equipment. Yunye agreed with an indifferent face. And Mr. Liu, happy as a cat to a fish, rejoiced at this. Zhang Yue called Su Jinyan, and together they went to the exit of the secret dark lair, and Lu Yao only happily and contentedly waved at the rapidly departing pair of people. The members of the Misty Rainy Pavilion Guild were discussing the recent announcement. They were talking about Su Yang, who had awakened in epic class, and the other one said she was beautiful and he didn't even know which man would suit her. The guildmaster said that Su Yang is the leader of the Misty Rainy Pavilion, and added that she is their strength. To which the others flinched in surprise. Master's closest subordinate said that she had killed the monster, so Zhang Yu was still alive. The same one cursed, saying that they underestimated him, and if they didn't kill him, then he would do anything for this purpose. He replied that he was supported by the highest guild. Zhang Zhuang got up from the bench and said that just because they couldn't kill, it didn't mean they couldn't assign the task to others. He turned to the head of the guild and asked with a surprised face what it all meant. He continued that last year several veterans of the game were stuck in the third world, and their minimum level reached 30, adding that they should meet with his family. Gloatingly, he continued, addressing him and telling Zhang Yu to wait a bit, and if he survived in the third world, he would do anything. Trees planted in a row. Su Jinyan turned to the hero, asking if the treatment of Zhang Zhuan did not make her his enemy. She was a little nervous, expecting to get a positive response. The guy turned around and said that his enemy was only Chen Jun, and that he should be responsible for his actions, adding that if the Misty Pavilion started helping him, he would not mind making more enemies. The girl, rejoicing, raised her hand as a sign of loyalty, and swore that she would not help the enemy, and said that she would be like him, and now she also hates Chen Zhang more than life. She pulled out a lute, saying that he had allowed her to deal the final blow, and the items rightfully belonged to him. A smile appeared on the protagonist's face. He thought that he would use the equipment and skill books later, and then his health and attack would increase significantly. A recently appeared system window announced that a horde of undead was advancing on Norden, and invited hunters to prepare for the defense of the city. Su Jinyan happily shouted out that the undead horde was coming, and Yue was thinking that as soon as they overcome this horde and complete the world quest, then he would be able to enter the third world. The girl boldly clasped her hands and warned that they needed to go back to prepare a little, to which the hero only positively sniffed. Suddenly, another girl quickly rushed by the girl. She loudly called out to Zhang Yu. She was worried, and holding onto the guy's clothes, she said she didn't know what she had done wrong, but asked him to forgive her. The guy just listened, but didn't answer. The main character asked what it all meant, and the brown-haired girl awkwardly fell silent. There was an awkward silence. Lowering her eyes to the floor, she wistfully said that Lu Yao no longer needed her. Su Jinyan irritably asked the girl if he had thrown her out, and so she decided to find Yue, and added questioningly, saying why would she do that? She, ignoring the other girl, replied to the guy that she admits that she considered him a poor man, but what kind of girl would not want to live peacefully with a rich man next to her? Whereupon he looked at her contemptuously. With hope in her eyes, she continued her words, saying that he had become strong, and all roads were open to him. She offered him to put aside all their quarrels and told him not to quarrel anymore. She promised to make him happy. A mocking grin lit up the guy's face, and he didn't laugh for long. Jinyan awkwardly said affirmatively that he had no dignity. Suddenly, the awkward silence was broken by a loud scream from the monsters, who only exclaimingly looked into the forest where the sound came from. The newly arrived girl said that the horde was already here, and they didn't have time to prepare, and another prayed to God, saying that she had time to meditate after completing the task, and offered to meet them with dignity. Zhang Yu turned to the girl, saying that since all the doors were open in front of him, why did he need a weakling like her next to him, and ordered her to get out of his sight. She was surprised by this response, and expressed her thoughts that he had changed, and would never have said such a thing before. The beds of vile monsters were rapidly running to attack the humans. Their mouths were torn, their skin was covered in abrasions, and their hands had large claws that could easily tear flesh. Jinyan's staff illuminated all the monsters with a purple glow, starting to launch a spell attack. She was holding them back, and they were screaming loudly. She turned slightly to the guy, warning him that there were too many undead and she couldn't hold them back anymore. A black cloud of magic appeared in the protagonist's hand. He told the armored scorpion to stand in front of the girl and help. A large scorpion appeared out of thin air, which swiftly wanted to stand in front of the girl, simultaneously attacking the horde of zombies. A fireball appeared above the guy's staff, which he summoned to attack. Throwing and summoning balls again, he attacked the monsters with great speed. Suddenly he was called with a request for rescue. He turned to the voice. The girl who was harassing the guy recently was in the hands of a zombie. They wanted to tear her up and eat her. She was desperately asking for help. Su Jinyan, hearing the pleas, decided to help her. She said that she would save her now, but the main character stopped her, ordering her to stand in one place. He told her with a serious face that there was no way to save her, and if she went, she would be swept up by their wave. The lifeless eyes of the girl were visible. Surrounded by many zombies, her entire body was burned from the hero's attacks. They were watching this when the guy asked what was going on, and she told him that this girl had used all her powers and abilities to revive. The horde of monsters didn't give them time to even think, attacking them again. Zhang Yu said that they didn't have time to mourn the dead and needed to deal with the undead horde as quickly as possible. Jinyan turned around, considering his words. She dully agreed with him. And the guy's face was a little down in his memories. A picture of him and that girl standing together, smiling and posing for a photo. Screams and howls of monsters. Numerous battles of people with them. Su Jinyan asked the main character why the Odra was still not ending if it was already the third wave. He replied that only 3 waves form every day, and they just need to wait a bit. A system appeared in front of the guy's face that reminded him of the world task of clearing the secret kingdom. He was thinking that he had received 400,000 after the Lair, and he needed to find a secret passage to enter the world. He told the girl that the wave was almost over, and offered her to restore herself by standing in front of the portal. She asked where he was going, with a surprised look on her face. As he entered the portal, he finally said that he had something else to do. The girl said in disbelief that she also wanted to go with him and take a look, but he had already left. He got into a level 17 undead hospital and thought that before the undead horde ended, he would quickly look where he needed to go. The dark room was illuminated by a bright light. Due to the opening of the door, the main character entered it, holding a staff in his hand. The monsters were surprised by the guy's audacity and started growling at him. He had a satisfied grin on his face and looked at them arrogantly. He told the armored scorpion to come out. He appeared behind him, and the 2 of them were rushing towards the monsters. He happily told the pet that a lot of experience was waiting for him. Sparks from the recent attacks were flying in the street around the hospital. Many bodies were lying on the floor, and gold coins were falling out of them with a slight yellow glow. A system window appeared congratulating him on clearing out the level 17 undead hospital, as well as saying that he had completed the second world quest and the boss had appeared. He also reached level 19. Taking the coins in his hand, he told his Scorpio that with this he would quickly gain a legendary level. Looking at his stats, he was glad that he had new skills, equipment, and increased his health attack. And as soon as he defeats the horde, he can prepare for the cleansing of the second world. A small system window appeared, which informed him that a message had been sent to him. Su Jinyan wrote that the undead horde was over, and asked him if he was going to fight the boss. Another guy wrote that, according to the information, the boss has level 20 and 3 stars. They say he will not be able to defeat him. Putting his hand to his lips and thinking that with a limiter mage he had a better chance of winning, but Lu Yao had helped him several times in defending the fortress anyway. He wrote that they would meet at the entrance to the Hall of the Undead Emperor in 15 minutes, while others replied that they understood. A couple dozen people were standing in front of the neighborhood of Norden. Su Jinyan, with a puzzled face, asked Lu Yao why he had brought so many people. He laughingly said that compared to their boss, she can generally be considered invincible. But do not forget that this is the final boss of the second world, and you should be prepared for anything. Zhang Yu turned his head towards him and said that since they were more comfortable there, then let there be so many people. A system window appeared, which told them that they had completed the tasks and could summon the boss. She also noticed a large crowd of people and asked if all these people wanted to step into the battle. The main character has accumulated some magic power in his hand. After sending this magic power, he clicked on the answer option, yes, that all the people here want to join the battle. A large portal opened, which illuminated everything in blue, and people stood in front of it and were about to enter. The portal reflected the outside world, and a warning appeared next to it that the boss of the second world had been summoned and was already there. Zhang Yu, standing next to Jinyan, told her that she had to go, and she only agreed with a little fear. Lu Yao told the members of his guild to follow their boss, and they agreed in unison. Everyone decided to enter the portal. The orange sky, which turned this color because of the abundance of fire. A ruined city that was being destroyed by a big monster. People came out of the portal, then this monster had its back to them, continuing to destroy buildings. Noticing the movements behind him, he began to turn towards them. The system declared him a level 20 undead emperor, a physical type, and a 3-star boss. Mr. Lu and his subordinates started talking about how huge he was. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to defeat a level 20 monster if they couldn't compete with a level 17 monster. The main character came out in front of the crowd. he called out to them and ordered them not to move. He continued to say that it would be better for them if they moved away, told them not to get close to the boss, warning them about death. Jinyan agreed and decided to activate her protection magic. Zhang Yu summoned his armored scorpion, saying that now it was his time to shine. A black and purple darkness covered them. The scorpion began to growl loudly, and the guy was thinking that in the secret kingdom, the undead horde had provided them with a lot of experience and pet eggs, which made it possible to overcome the difference between the armored scorpion boss. The emperor's eyes sparkled red. He stood in front of Scorpio, saying that they were all worthless people who wanted to taste death. The sudden attack of the scorpion swept across the asphalt of the destroyed world. She hit the boss hard on the neck, which took him 500 points of damage. Zhang Yu jumped off the cliff, holding his staff in his hand, which was glowing with strong fire, creating a large magic ball. He hit the boss, who grinned at him. The main character thought that the new equipment increased his damage quite well, and now the battle with the boss feels just like a clash with a strong monster that he has already dealt with. The loud cry of the Lord, who commanded that all dirty insects disappear. His hand hit the armored scorpion's head, and it just hissed at him. A gloating grin appeared on his face, with which he said that the human race was looking for death, in which case he would show what he was capable of doing. He hit the ground with his hand, and the whole earth was covered with tentacles that trapped people. Many people got scared and started running, screaming in fear. The armored scorpion decided to attack, hissing and screaming at its opponent. The Lord of the Undead got angry and hit the hero's pet, to which he moaned softly. From such a crushing force, he flew far away for meters, falling on his back. He landed near Lu Yao and his men, who ordered them to treat him, saying that he was one of their strongest fighters. People surrounded him, trying to heal him. His body was illuminated with a green light, which made it clear that the treatment was working. Zhang Yu entered the battle with the boss, who replaced the scorpion. He stood in front of the monster, waiting for its attack. Suddenly, a scorpion attacked. Su Jinyan used her attacks with all her might. Her face was serious. The boss got to his feet. After the scorpion's attack, he began to mock them, saying that they were just pathetic people who could only do such low-grade magic. The girl tried with all her might to hold him, but her strength was running out. She shouted to the main character that she would not be able to hold him anymore. What the guy thought about? He started using a spell that blew his hair back. He replied to the boss, saying that it wasn't them who were pathetic, but he was too weak to compete with them, and attacked the boss with several spells at once, to which he shouted deafeningly. Lu Yao was shocked that a level 23-star boss instantly lost a quarter of his health as soon as he started hitting Yue. He called him very strong. Zhang Yu placed the staff in front of his face. He said that he would finish it for now. His face was illuminated by a bluish glow of light. A large lightning bolt flew up. She shot electricity through the boss's body. He shouted loudly, waving his arms from different directions. The lightning had stopped, and the wind was still shaking the dust on the floor. The defeated body of the undead emperor fell face down on the floor, and the protagonist watched it. Lord Yao and Su Jinyan were delighted with such a fast attack. Yao said that he was something, the girl confirmed, and asked if he had increased his attack. The guy's eyes expressed nothing, as if he was thinking about something. A sharp earthquake and system windows announced that the boss of the second world, the undead emperor, has been defeated by heaven and earth. A strong earthquake started shaking the whole city, and a lot of smoke appeared, as if an active volcano had appeared here. The people who entered here were alarmed. They loudly asked what was going on here. The undead emperor abruptly opened his eyes, his pupils staring at the people standing on the small hill. He said he would drag the entire pathetic human race with him to hell. Suddenly, lava appeared, which began to burn the boss himself, but in a way that would soon reach them. Lu Yao clung to the protagonist's leg in fright, asking what they would do, and warned that he had no more resurrection scrolls. He was afraid that if he died, it would be forever and irrevocably. The portal that brought them here began to narrow, and the hero thought that he would not have time to reach it, because it was too far away. Turning his head, he saw the armored scorpion and had a thought. Taking Mr. Lu by the scruff of the neck, who did not want to let go of his leg, and sobbed. He also took Su Jinyan by the waist, who did not expect such a sudden touch. He started running away at full speed, saying he didn't have time to explain. Zhang Yu called out to Scorpio, who did not understand what was required of him. He violently threw two people at him. The guy shouted at his subordinate to use all his strength and throw them to the exit, pointing with his hand in the direction where the portal was located. After catching two people, he shouted as if he had caught a catch. He picked them up neatly with his claws and ran. Lu Yao's face twisted from such a fast movement, and he persistently asked what kind of terrible joke the main character decided to pull off. The scorpion has already thrown them in the right direction. Jinyan leaned against her staff, afraid of losing it, and the eldest son of the Luke family only prayed to God to save him and cried in fear. They flew through the portal and were already in the ordinary world. The girl landed lightly, and the guy landed face first on the floor. Lu Yao made an evil face. Blood was gushing from his nose, he said. That he thought he was going to die there. The girl only reminded that Yue was still inside, warning that the exit would disappear soon. In the world of the Undead Emperor, a guy stood in front of a scorpion. Taking the guy in one claw, he told him to use all his strength and ordered him to throw him out of there, and at that time he would have time to recall him and take him with him. He threw the guy hard and growled. The lava had almost reached his body. In flight, the main character called back the armored scorpion, telling him to return. Because of the lava, the stones collided, and fiery magma flew in all directions. Right in front of the guy's eyes, a portal was visible a couple of meters away, which would save him. Suddenly, a large pillar of fire appeared in front of him and his salvation, which prevented him from flying past. As he fell, he thought that everything had disrupted his pace, and it was bad. He gathered a fireball in his hand. Hitting the fire with fire, he still flew. More pillars of fire rose up from this collision. There was panic behind the portal. Jinyan said with fear that the portal was disappearing and that he would not make it in time. And Lu Yao was already mourning the deceased, saying how could he die like that, and saying that he sacrificed his life for him. A strong glow appeared from the portal, and the people around it were very scared and surprised. With tears in their eyes, their faces became happy and they started shouting the name of the main character. Landing on one foot, Zhang Yu, who had managed to get out of this hell, was sitting on the ground. He was smiling at his return. His companions ran to him, asking if he was okay. He replied that everything was fine, but he was slightly hurt by the remnants of the explosion, but it was nothing. System alerts appeared that the cleansing of the world was complete, and Lu Yao, with stars in his eyes, rejoiced at this, shouting that he had done it. He thanked the guy, and then decided to give him 1 million as a reward. Zhang Yu, with a normal expression on his face, said that since the missions were completed, he would go home and rest. Su Jinyan called out to him, telling him to stop. She said with a confident face that Cheng Jun had left the misty rainy pavilion, and he would find an opportunity to take revenge on him. She asked him to be careful. The guy turned to her, he said he understood, and went on his way. Lu Yao turned to her, offering to unite and go through the third world together. She replied that he could handle it on his own. He hoped that they would be able to work together. She didn't think they could become friends so quickly. A system window appeared, which gave the name of the third world, Approaching Death. There was a cemetery in this location. Crosses were everywhere, and a large skull made this place even scarier. Cracks began to appear on the ground near the crosses. Suddenly, a hand appeared that was trying to get out of the ground. The entire top guild appeared, and one of the participants addressed the boss, joking that there was so much entertainment here, just a cemetery. He replied that they should use the chance to become the first guild in Zhenying province. Someone stepped on his hand. He started cursing, asking which blind idiot dared to step on him, calling them stupid. Strangers asked him if he was traveling with a man named Zhang Yu and ordered him to be brought to him. Lu Kao rudely asked that he considered himself somehow special and what made him think that he would bring him at his first call. One of his guilds started whispering to him that it might be old-class users who were stuck in the third world and suggested calling Zhang Yu. The same man replied that he would never betray his brother. The leader of the strangers took the sword and already began to take it out of the scabbard, saying that since he did not want to be nice. The wind suddenly began to blow in Lu Yao's face, and the man continued that then he should not be accused of ruthlessness. The leader of these bandits stabbed Lu Yao in the neck with a sword, but it went through without damage. The guy told his boss that the blow had failed, who only replied that they might be protected, and asked how they were able to clear the second world before even reaching level 20. The guild leader began to check himself for wounds. He was glad that the defense had a run of 10 levels. Otherwise, he would have died. One of his comrades said that he should take advantage of the opportunity and run. Grins appeared on the faces of strangers, and they warned that it would be difficult to escape from them. Suddenly, they started attacking all the guild members. They clearly enjoyed killing. One of them said that just because he couldn't kill them, it didn't mean that the others couldn't. There was a characteristic from the system. They were level 25, and they were the second and third oldest warrior killer. Lu Yao sat down on the floor in panic, and the guy next to him said that these were mercenaries who were taking other people's rewards. They just stood over them. The most important one said that he was giving them one last chance. Otherwise, they might be preparing for death if they didn't call Zhang Yu. An ordinary city with many high-rise buildings. And a voice from a phone was heard from one of them, saying that they had received payment of medical bills. Zhang Yu was sitting on the bed talking to his mother's doctor. He said they would take care of everything, and he didn't have to worry, and he thanked them for their work. Looking at his phone and rereading Lu Yao's message that he had sent compensation, Zhang Yu was talking to himself, saying that it was good that he was throwing money around generously and he didn't have to worry about debts. He suddenly got a call, and the main character was surprised. Panic appeared on his face. Answering the phone, he was immediately told that the leader was dying, and they were asking for help. At the cemetery, Mr. Lu and his friend are sitting on their knees, and they are surrounded by people who are holding them hostage. One of the mercenaries warned his leader that someone was coming. He just twitched in surprise. The main character appeared from the depths of the cemetery, who was walking with menacing intentions. When he got close enough to be heard, he ordered them to let him go. The head of the bandits turned to him with a grin, saying that he was Zhang Yu. He said that someone had given them a lot of money for his life, so one of the two would survive. Either Lu Yao or Yu. Mr. Yao started asking who did it, and offered to pay 100 million if they would let them go. He assured them that his father was the richest millionaire in Linghai. One of the bandits started to say that their price was much higher, but he was interrupted, saying that the master's past would be stronger and he could not be refused. The leader ordered the guy to be killed, saying that he was just a tamer. One of the bandits rushed into battle with great speed and a grin on his face. He struck with his sword, but his victim dodged with extreme ease. The bandit was surprised and confused by this. Zhang Yu used a spell that froze the bad man and left him standing in one position. From the blocks of ice, the bandit was asking what had happened. The evil face of the hero made it clear that they had asked for it. Another bandit rushed to help his brother, insulting the hero in every possible way. Sparks appeared from the guy's staff, and then a fireball formed. He attacked the newly arrived bandit, who flew away from the blast wave and the fire, screaming insanely loudly. Zhang Yu's expression showed an impenetrable desire for revenge and the seriousness of this intention. The bandit leader's face was full of uncertainty and panic. He was thinking about how he killed a level 25 warrior. He gripped the hilt of his weapon tightly in his hand. The main mercenary appeared behind the guy. He swung at him. The hero didn't have time to react. His shoulder was wounded. He clenched his teeth in pain. And the bandit was smiling slyly. The system window informed him that he had received an insidious blow that had taken 1,425 health points from him. Recovering quickly, he took up a fighting stance in front of the villain. The mercenary grinned, saying that he had survived his blow. Suddenly, he attacked. After saying that his life was over, Zhang Yu thought that the assassin's agility was 30 levels higher than his, and the blow was too close to dodge. After these arguments, a purple glow appeared. An armored scorpion emerged from the purple glow, which immediately placed its claws in front of him to protect its master. And the killer hit those claws with speed. Sweat poured down Scorpio's face from failure. The mercenary's punch almost reached Zhang Yu. His face changed, and fear settled in his eyes. The bandit had an evil smile on his face. He was happy because he was confident of his victory. Finally, he told him to finally die. The purple sparks protected him from the impact. Su Jinyan helped the guy avoid the blow. She was screaming and asking if he was okay. The mercenary's face was contorted with fear. Sweat began to flow down it. The main character's eyes turned red, and his face darkened, as if he were the main villain. He said it was the bandit's turn to take his attack. He began to prepare for fire magic. The killer started screaming in fright as the fire began to approach his face. The sudden attack sent him flying from the power of the magic. It began to burn actively. Almost at death's door, he thought about how he was killed by a level 20 tamer, because he has level 30 gold armor.